Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 of What If Naruto Was Trained by Orochimaru. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Sasuke was known for many things. His Uchiha name and now former status as such, his now gone legion of fangirls, his legacy of being the sole survivor of the Uchiha massacre, most people ignoring the fact that Itachi never actually endangered him that night, and his antisocial arrogant behavior. But one thing he was not known for was being cowardly. And while he might not be a coward, right there, staring at the genin with sinister auras, Sasuke Uchiha was admittedly fearful. He was standing before 3 shinobi without his Sharingan being a usable option, all 3 using some sort of power he couldn't predict. And worse of all, he knew his skills might not be good enough to counter. For the past few weeks, after being put down by everyone for now being a Sharingan-less nobody, Sasuke trained himself privately every spare moment to convince himself they were wrong and he was still superior to all other carbon-based lifeforms. Only to find out his speed, strength, and accuracy were below his expectations. At first he thought he was just too angry to focus and calmed himself repeatedly. However, much to his dismay, his skills didn't instantly improve. He could still remember the harsh truth being rubbed in his face. Flashback. Something wrong, Sasuke? Kakashi asked when he noticed his student was brooding even more than usual. Whoever took away my Sharingan weakened my skills apparently. The young Uchiha replied. Kakashi tilted his head sideways towards his left. What makes you say that? Because when I test myself now I'm not getting the results I used to get back in the academy. My running times slowed down, my punches make less of an impact on my targets, and I'm missing more shots in target practice now. Sasuke explained. And you believe the absence of your Sharingan is to blame here? Kakashi asked, getting a nod as his answer. Sasuke, you didn't have your Sharingan back at the academy, so by your own logic you should be no different than you were back then. Not worse. And just so you know, I've done the same and I haven't gotten any worse than before. But how else could this have happened? I'm not going to enjoy what happens next, I just know it. The Junin told himself before speaking. Don't you remember the council telling you they gave you many luxuries without you knowing to make you feel important? Is it possible they rigged your scores and tests to make you feel better than you actually are? Sasuke then looked like he couldn't decide if he believed or disbelieved the idea. In the end he decided it was too far-fetched for his tastes. Why would they need to? I'm an elite, so do that would. Do exactly what the council wanted, which was fill your head with delusions of grandeur, wouldn't it? Kakashi cut in. They gave you everything you wanted to get on your good side, Sasuke, and to put you in debt to them. Remember, they ordered some stores to give you reduced prices and they granted you more access to your clan resources than any other clan heir, even last ones, would be entitled to at your age. Is it really that hard to imagine they may have ensured your tests were rigged to guarantee you felt like the best, even if you weren't truly qualified for it on a fair basis? Sasuke frowned, but doubt had already been planted in his mind. Could he be right? But I know I did the best times and hit the most targets. How could that be rigged? Later that same night Kakashi would retrieve the academy files on the history of his students, something Junin were entitled to do to find problem areas in their students' skills. After he got them, he stopped by Sasuke's apartment to show him the contents of his own file of achievements. Sasuke was shocked and insulted. What the? Whenever I came in first in the runs and obstacle courses, they reduced the time recorded to make me sound faster. And the taijutsu instructors were instructed to take a dive whenever it was my turn if they wanted to keep their jobs. Huh. The targets for target practice had special magnets inside them that only worked with a jutsu the teachers used when it was my turn, guaranteeing a hit each time. Dear Kami-sama, if this is true, then how good am I really without someone letting me win at everything? End flashback. Sasuke still wasn't too sure of the answer. Part of the reason he wanted to enter the Chunin exams was to find out for certain, since Kakashi told him no one would hold back against him. The chance at revenge on those he met in Wave was just icing on the cake. Now, as he stood there, facing 3 of the genin he saw in Wave, each radiating a dangerous energy and looking like a coiled snake ready to strike, he started thinking he made a mistake. All 3 Oto genin took a stance. Hinata and Isaribi took the stance of snake-style taijutsu, which kept their legs close together but their arms apart, the right one usually pulled back and the left put ahead. The intent was so they could strike first and dodge any counterattack within seconds just like a viper. Hinata had her hands unclenched while Isaribi did. Naruto meanwhile took Jiraiya's toad-style stance instead, where his legs were bent outwards and his right hand was on the ground in front of him with his left hand in a ready fist. The intent was to wait like a toad for the enemy's first move then retaliate. The two girls were the first to attack, with Naruto settling for keeping the Uchiha's teammates from coming to his rescue or attacking the other Oto team. It wasn't too hard, as Sakura was scared shitless of the sight before her and Kiba, now recovered from his hit, was too confused to know what to do with three glowing enemies. Hinata and Isaribi ran towards the lone Uchiha, Hinata's Byakugan active but her contacts hiding her true eye color and her hair somewhat covering her bulging veins. Isaribi pulled out a longer than normal kunai and weaved to get behind Sasuke while Hinata got in front of him and took the focus of his attention. Once behind him the purple-haired girl crouched down and jabbed her kunai into his back, missing his spine giving him a nasty wound. Hinata meanwhile gathered sharp chakra points at her fingertips and struck many of Sasuke's tenketsu, making him scream even more. Kiba thought now might be a good time to intervene before his teammate got killed and he himself could not advance any further. He got up and on all fours with Orochimaru jumping on his back. But before they could do anything, Naruto got in front of them and snarled. The two boys then started trying to hold the other back in a direct face-off, each blocking the other's hands with their own and trying to push them back. Kiba used his claws to wound Naruto's hands at first, but Kyuubi's chakra started to burn his own, making him try to back off. However, Naruto used his own claws to hold the Inuzuka in place, furthering the pain. Sakura looked between her two victimized teammates, not sure who to help or how. She looked first to Sasuke, who turned to catch Isaribi, but she dodged overhead and got some monowire out which she spun around him in that moment. It was easy since Hinata's fighting style made him slower than normal, and now that he was almost completely immobile, the Byakugan wielder could use this rare opportunity to attack every tenketsu on the human body, front back and side rather than just the front. Acting on impulse, albeit delayed, Sakura got up to rush over and fight the other kunoichi. Unfortunately she was blocked by Kin, Zaku, and Dosu. Kin kept making glances towards the power-radiating Naruto though for a moment. He's so hot right now. If I wasn't so certain Hinata would kill me for it, I'll try seducing him once this was over. Don't count us out just yet. Zaku said as he flexed his hands. Sakura reacted in the only way she could see that would give her team the best results. If I give you guys our scroll will you and them leave us be? The three Oto genin shared a look. That depends on what it is. Dosu answered. Sakura pulled out her team's earth scroll. Since Sasuke and Kiba couldn't agree amongst themselves she took it upon herself to do it instead. Zaku smirked. Perfect, we need that one. Thanks, Pinky. He said as he took it. Then you'll leave us be? Sakura asked. We will, but we can't promise our comrades will. Kin replied. Ignoring Sakura's shocked expression, the brunette kunoichi calmly approached Naruto, who was still struggling against Kiba and Orochimaru, who was trying to bite the Jinchuriki's ankle off it seemed. She brushed the puppy aside with her foot and leaned in to whisper in her love interest's ear. We got their scroll so try and finish things up here quickly if you can. Okay Naruto-kun. Then she quickly kissed his cheek, figuring Hinata wouldn't notice. Then she and her teammates left. Naruto chose to do as the girl said and end this right away. He let go off Kiba, allowing the dog Nin to back away and fan his burnt hands for a moment. Then he ran up to him and punched him right in the jaw, sending him flying and crashing into a tree head first. Orochimaru wisely decided to leave this enemy alone now. Naruto admired his handiwork for a brief second. It's a shame he went down. He might have been a good challenge, had I actually given him a chance to fight back. Then he turned to see how two of his confirmed 8 girls were doing. It looked like they were doing well, as Sasuke was face down on the ground but still breathing and they both stood over him ready to dish out more pain. Good job girls. I'm glad you didn't kill him. I'd really like to though. Hinata said, not sure if it was the curse mark's influence or not. Why can't we? Isaribi asked. Because I promised a certain someone we wouldn't. At least not yet, unless he killed one of our own. Naruto answered, his red chakra cloak fading away. He came awfully close with you too, but not close enough. So we gotta let him live for now. And who did you promise? Isaribi asked the disguised blonde. Subsonic. They've got something special planned for this guy later on, if you catch my drift. Hinata nodded. Ah, that makes sense. So what now? Isaribi asked. This. Naruto said before making his hand glow with green chakra, and he placed it on Sasuke's face after he turned the boy over. Sakura watched in wonder. What are you doing? The Jinchuriki didn't even look at her as he answered. You and everyone else will find out in a month or two. If he lives that long, that is. Finished, he stood straight up again. The others got their scroll, so we should move on. They nodded, and then jumped into the trees, heading elsewhere. Naruto-kun, why did you use a healing jutsu on that jerk? Hinata asked, she and Isaribi making their curse marks recede. It was Ji-san's idea. Remember how thanks to what I did in Wave that guy can't use his precious Sharingan for 2 more months. When he gets it back, that's going to let Konoha know that my ability to take away their bloodlines is only temporary, which will make them less afraid of us. So how do we deal with that? Ji-san came up with the idea to do a jutsu for show, with unknowing witnesses around, that would let the Uchiha and everyone else in Konoha think someone gave him back his dujutsu. Wait, so you're saying that you did that just so when the seals fade and he gets his eyes back, he'll think it wasn't supposed to happen on its own? He'll think the only reason he got it back is because you gave it back to him, rather than it being a time thing? Isaribi asked. Naruto nodded. Yep. His teammate will tell him I did some kind of jutsu to his face, his eyes come back in time if he lives that long, and no one knows the real reason why. Making Odo look like it has total control over the bloodlines of other villages. I like it. Hinata commented. Me too. Someone else said as they caught up to the 3 genin. Sakura, now able to move her legs without them trembling, came over to check on her teammate's well-being. He appeared dazed and out of it with blood pooling underneath himself and many small bruises on his skin, but that was it. Oh Sasuke-kun, she said with a few tears as she pulled out her first aid kit. She turned him over so she could see his back and tend to his wounds. She tried to pull up his shirt, but he ineffectively swapped her hand away. Don't even think about it. But how else am I supposed to patch you up? Sure, that's how it'll start. Then you'll get eager to see and do more, and I'm in no mood for that. He irritably claimed, clenching his teeth in an effort to bear the pain. Healing you is a bigger priority, Sasuke-kun, and you need my help. She replied matter-of-factly. Sasuke tried to sternly look at her as she unfurled some gauze. No, I don't. I can handle this myself. Go help out the mud if you feel you must touch a guy now. He was somewhat surprised to see the kunoichi give him an annoyed look rather than a diligent one. Fine. If you've got the energy to argue, then go ahead and treat yourself. But know this, Sasuke-kun, I'm still one of the few people in this village that treat you as someone special. Do you really want to turn me away too? She got up and headed towards Kiba rather than await Sasuke's response. In all honesty, Sasuke actually did want Sakura to treat his wounds, if only to conserve his own strength and have someone who could get a better look at his injuries do the job. But his Uchiha pride demanded he not just let her do it, rather he deny so she'd insist and go ahead only to get it done. He did not expect her to decide to let up like that. Could even she be losing respect for me, like the others? He asked himself, not sure if he should like the idea or not. Ah, Subsonic, what are you doing here? Naruto asked his group's new guest. I'm just keeping an eye on my favorite genins. Gotta make sure this test isn't rigged like I suspect it is. The disguised ninja answered as they kept pace with the younger ones. Rigged? Isaribi asked. Subsonic nodded. Yeah, I have a feeling that Hokage-sama decided to set up this test in a specific way once he found out Odo was joining. Part of it is to test the new village's strength, and the other is to see if it's directly responsible for what happened to their last Uchiha. That doesn't sound too bad. We can handle that, right? Hinata commented. It gets worse. Subsonic continued. You're too young to know this, but almost every one of the 5 major hidden villages rig these tests. They claim they're just using a home field advantage, but history shows the ones most likely to advance to the final rounds and actually get promoted are the ones native to the village hosting the test. Wait, so you're saying that the only ones who really stand a chance at getting a genin promotion are the Konoha genin? Isaribi asked. No, but the odds are in their favor. Think about it. Chunin exams attract business to the villages and the ones who appear the strongest get the most business. To appear the strongest, the village needs to have the most advanced genin and the most promotions. That tricks the payers of missions into thinking one village has more qualified ninja for hire than another, even if they're more expensive or harder to reach. So you're saying that each village to an extent sets up this test to give its own genin an unfair edge so in the end they earn more money for the village? Hinata asked, somewhat appalled by the idea. That's exactly what I'm saying. Subsonic replied. Konoha may be a ninja village but it needs funding just like any other. And like ninja, it may go about the job in a sneaky way. Oto would probably do the same if it got the chance to host the exams. So do we stand a chance at all or is us being here just to make Konoha look better by beating us at a game they shouldn't lose in the first place? Naruto asked, feeling angry. Oh yeah, if you make it to the final round then yes you do. Konoha isn't allowed to be the only governing body when it comes to deciding promotions. That would be considered an unfair and heavily biased situation. Cages for other villages and even daimyos of other countries come to the village to watch and all are allowed to make their own judgments. Village councils and advisors are allowed to make suggestions too. Of course, final say goes to the cage for each of their respective genin, but they have to explain to their advisors and daimyos why they made such decisions so promotions can't just be handed out. So Konoha can't disqualify us or deny us our chances? Hinata asked. Exactly. Subsonic answered. They're allowed to make reviews on you and pass them, but ultimately the decision is Otokage-sama's. The Hokage can only truly promote or deny his own genin, not someone else's. That's a relief. But are you certain this test is rigged to favor Konoha's chances? Isaribi asked. When you get to the finals, or even some sort of preliminary in the chance that happens, check how many participants are from Konoha and how many aren't. Then you'll see. Until then, I better get going before anyone notices I snuck in here. Good luck. Oh, and before I forget, thanks for sparing Sasuke's life Naruto. Subsonic said before departing. Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi didn't find anyone else for the rest of the day they had to fight off. When it came time to stop for the night, Hinata found them an open area they could climb into underneath the roots of a large tree. Naruto took the first watch, allowing Hinata and Isaribi to get some sleep. Also his many bloodlines should be enough to counter the efforts of any last-minute attackers. Now, hours later, it was time for a shift change. Both girls woke up, tested for any genjutsus that may have been used in their sleep by someone, and Naruto came inside so one could take his place. Okay girls, who's next? He asked. How about Hinata? Isaribi asked. Said girl gave her teammate a dour look. And why should I? Because it's still dark out. With your eyes you'd have an advantage over me, who can't see that well in the dark. The purple-haired girl explained. The pale-eyed girl didn't look like she bought it. If you can see underwater I'm sure you can handle the low-light vision of night. Yeah but we're in dangerous territory here so we need to use the best advantage we got. Like your eyes. Isaribi replied. Why is she getting so defensive all of a sudden? This isn't like her, but I know it's not someone under a henge. You just want some time to sleep next to Naru-kun. Hinata said with no small amount of hostility. It would happen later whether or not you took this watch or the next so what's the problem? Calm down girls. Naruto said, only to get an annoyed look from Hinata. I can't Naru-kun because she's trying to get into your sleeping bag with you when my back's turned and get closer to you right under my nose. How am I supposed to be okay with that? Do you think I'm going to do anything more with her tonight than sleep in the same area? He asked. No, but she will. Hinata answered with a pointed look at the swimming enthusiast. Hey, as one of his girls, one chosen by both of you I might add, I have a right to be friendly with him too you know. Isaribi commented. Only when I approve and right now I don't. And what if he does? Isaribi asked. It's my choice what happens between my future husband and other girls and I say hands off until further notice. Hinata declared. Wood style. Treehugger jutsu. Naruto called out with their attention diverted. Instantly many branches came out of the tree base, each with a hand at the end, and all grabbed a hold of the two girls. What the? They asked as they felt their arms and legs and even the sides of their torsos grabbed by the wooden hands and lifted off the ground. They both put up a bit of a struggle but the hands just tightened their grips. What gives Naru-kun? Hinata asked, more surprised than anything right then. You two need a timeout. Especially you, Hinata. He answered, trying not to look mad but clearly not looking happy either. She now gave him her full attention and a shocked expression. Naru-kun doesn't use my full name unless he really needs my attention. What's wrong? Did I upset him? Seeing they were listening, Naruto said more. We're in enemy territory now. The enemy is outside these walls, we don't need to turn against each other like this. Especially over something like this. He then looked right at Hinata, his sad gaze making her heart ache. Hinata, lately you've been acting a bit possessive of me. I know I promised that you'd be my real wife, but you're not acting like the girl I fell for. You're acting like you're a little kid being told to share their favorite toy when they don't want to. And I'm that toy. He's got a point. Isaribi said to herself, afraid to voice any thoughts right then since this was mostly between the two of them. Hinata didn't say a word so Naruto continued. The girl I fell for wasn't a possessive person who regarded me as if I was wearing a sign that said, property of Hinata, hands off until further notice. The girl I fell for wouldn't keep me on a short leash like I'm going to run away first chance I get. The girl I fell for would instead trust me. I do trust you Naru-kun. Hinata countered with a few tears being released. It's just, how am I supposed to be special to you when I'm just 1 out of 9? He took a step closer to her. Do you really think I'd treat you like you're just another girl to me? But you said you'd treat all the others as good as you'd treat me. She added. How will I be different than them if I don't reinforce the fact that I'm the alpha girl of the group? Naruto sighed. You don't have to prove anything to them Hina-chan. Isaribi-chan and the others already know you're the alpha girl, so to speak, and from what I've seen they're not trying to take that away from you. Isaribi-chan was just stating a fact moments ago. At this time of night you do have a visual advantage over her. And even if she did try to sleep right next to me, it's not like I couldn't tell her no or we'd do anything intimate if I did allow her to stay. He's right you know. Isaribi told Hinata. Naruto made it so the ensnaring tree arms lowered Hinata a bit to allow more leveled eye contact between the two. He then got closer so he could wipe away her tears. Hinata, I don't want to lose you, but if you keep acting like this, then I'm afraid we won't work out. Hinata could actually feel her heart start to break. Tears practically poured out of her eyes. No Naru-kun, anything but that. I love you, I can't bear to lose you like this. Please let me keep being your girlfriend. I love you too Hina-chan. But you need to learn to share me. I'm sorry, but that's our situation. I need to be with girls that can get along with each other, not fight over who gets more time and whose turn it is to touch me. He told her, a few tears in his own eyes. You know I need to treat the others really good too. Would it be fair to them if I didn't? It doesn't mean you won't be as special to me anymore. But it's my choice when to spend time with the other girls, not just yours. I would let you know when I do, but I'm not going to be some boy toy that girls have to schedule time for. If I may. Isaribi said, catching both of their attentions for a minute. Hinata-chan, maybe with all the time and effort you've been using to ensure your status among us girls, that very thing seems to have been hurting your status to him. Think about that. Hinata did. Is it true? Have I started becoming some kind of territorial jerk? I just wanted to be the most important one in Naru-kun's heart, and I didn't want the other girls to try to compete with me for that. Isaribi took this opportunity to continue her point. Hinata-chan, I know you're the more important of us all to him. Hell, if he didn't need multiple girls you'd still be the only girl he'd think of looking at. I know that, we all know that. But we accept that. We can't take your place, but we are entitled to have our own places in his heart too and some girlfriend privileges if we're really going to make this thing work. You can't keep his heart to yourself anymore. The other 8 of us are going to be the mothers of his children too, so we'll deserve to be treated with some love too. Besides, no matter how much he cares for us all, you're the only one amongst us in this that will wear a ring. If that's not enough of a message for his feelings for you, maybe you shouldn't be the one he puts that ring on. The former Hyuga hung her head and openly weeping. Naru-kun, I'm so sorry. I've been such a bitch, haven't I? Naruto released the wood jutsu on them both, turned off his Kekkei Genkai, and hugged his best friend. It made her cry more and cling to him with all her might. No, you haven't. You've just been afraid. Just promise me you won't try to become some kind of girlfriend Zilla like that again. She relaxed but didn't let go. I won't, I promise. Isaribi smiled. I guess I'll take the next watch after all so you two can work out anything else in private. Hinata turned to look at her other teammate. No, you're right. My skills are better suited for this time than yours are, like you said. I'll go. You and Naru-kun get some rest for a bit. Naruto then kissed her forehead and she kissed his cheek. After that she separated herself from him and went outside the tree, taking a post in the foliage to avoid being seen. I need to show Naru-kun I can trust him to be with the others when I'm not around. I shouldn't worry, because even if I'm just one of 9, I'm number 1 of 9. She activated her Byakugan to be on the lookout, and saw Isaribi and Naruto starting to sleep only a meter apart from each other. The purple-haired girl clearly wanted to cuddle up with the disguised blonde, but he appeared to be resisting for now, going so far as to face away from her despite the potential rudeness in the act. Hinata strangely felt relieved and saddened by this. I'm glad I have nothing to worry about, but maybe next time I'll tell them it's okay. I don't want Naru-kun afraid of my reactions after all. Even as she told herself this, Hinata was repeatedly clenching and unclenching her fists. In another part of the Forest of Death, Team 7 of Konoha was resting for the night as well. They chose to sleep in the branches of a large tree rather than under it. Right now it was Sasuke's turn to stand watch for nocturnal enemy activity. The dark-eyed emo was doing his duty, but he had other things on his mind at the same time as well. Maybe I made a mistake entering this exam, just to test myself. He told himself woefully. I mean, I'm probably the only one here who doesn't know how good they really are. Damn the council for exaggerating my skills. What if I got myself in a situation where I could die because I didn't know my true strengths? He then felt a pang of self-loathing and self-pity, but he ignored it. It's all their fault and Kakashi's fault for making me believe that. They should have known better. Yeah, it's all their fault. If they hadn't done that, I'd still have my Sharingan. He sighed internally and scanned the area again before turning around to see what was behind him. In that case I don't know who I should be angrier at. The one who took my Sharingan from me, or the ones who set my life up with their own gain in mind. If I never lost my Dujutsu, I'd still have all the privileges and status I took for granted, but I'd still be an ignorant pawn of a greedy government that only let me think I was on top. That thought triggered a new train of thought that made his whole body jerk in shock for a moment and his eyes widen at the mere prospect of it. Wait, does that mean I should be grateful to the jerk that took my Kekkei Genkai from me? Is it better to be privileged yet ignorant, or humbled yet aware of the truth? I don't think I like either. While Sasuke pondered his options, his Kunoichi teammate was doing the same thing in her sleep. Sakura, once adamant in her decision to pursue her goal, was now torn between two choices to make. She could either continue to pursue Sasuke, her odds greatly increased without any other rival to compete against now, or ditch him and find someone else to take an interest in, like her aunt told her to. Sasuke-kun needs help and a caring friend in these hard times for him. But when I tried to be he wasn't interested. But I've always tried that and never thought about any other boy. Because Obasan always told me he was the only one worth thinking about. I even ended my friendship with Ino so I could get Sasuke-kun like Obasan told me to do. She said we would have to fight over him someday anyway, so it would have been better to not have that kind of bond to interfere with my chance of victory. But now Ino's not interested, which makes me the best option for Sasuke-kun, but he's just being more distant. Her mind continued to ramble as she shifted from sleeping on her left side to her right. If Sasuke-kun warms up to me, then I'll get what I wanted, even though I won't have the rich high life I expected to. It's not like I can't cope with a regular budget, I've been doing that all my life with Obasan. But being with someone rich and powerful was my dream too. I just always assumed Sasuke-kun would have that too and could never possibly lose it. Now that he has. I don't know which goal is more important. I want to be with Sasuke-kun, but I also want to be wealthy and not have to work all my life just to live under a budget. Which do I choose to pursue the most? In her dreams Sakura heard two voices, neither of them inner Sakura. The first was the voice of Sasuke, who said, I'm an Uchiha dammit. The elite of the elite of the elite. Even the richest daimyo isn't as important as the poorest Uchiha. You really want to throw me away when the odds are almost entirely in your favor. The second was the voice of her aunt Natsumi, who said, he's nothing but an empty wallet and a limp dick now. Men are supposed to spoil women rotten and now he can't, so what good is he to you? Ditch him and find some other clan heir to swoon over. Don't piss away your chance to bag a loaded wallet. The internal yelling was starting to give the Pinkett a headache. It was understandable, as those two and their ideals had pretty much been the only two she had ever really listened to and considered important enough to follow. Sure, she obeyed the Hokage and academy teachers when they gave orders, but to Sakura, the true power figures were and always had been Sasuke and Natsumi. But now that the two sides no longer said the same thing, she felt torn between them. Kiba meanwhile just drooled and smiled as he slept. Back with Hinata, her eyes were peeled for any threat. Her Byakugan revealed several nocturnal animals going about their business and some rival shinobi moving within her range, fortunately not towards herself. Fortunately all these things kept her focus off her sleeping teammates. While the Byakugan was indeed a dujutsu that gave its user a large range of vision, like all Kekkei Genkai there were a few facts about its use that no one without it could understand. One such fact was that the wielder couldn't truly see everything around themselves like others claimed. If the eye truly allowed someone to see everything within its large range simultaneously, as most assumed it did, the visual part of the wielder's brain would probably self-destruct from sensory overload. To prevent this, the wielder basically had a visual focal point that was free to move around to anywhere within range, with everything else being a sort of large range of peripheral vision. Sort of like something a normal-eyed person would see on the edge of their visual scope, seen but not actually looked at. So even though Hinata didn't have to move her eyes or head to see something new, she still had to move the focus of her vision around, as if she was moving her eyes or head instead, to check for danger. Fortunately she could do it quickly for the odds of something slipping by while her focus was elsewhere was slim to none. Another good point was that there was also a permanent secondary focal point always positioned in front of themselves, so when Byakugan wielders were on the move they could look around themselves without sacrificing quality sight for what was in front of them. There's some bats, an owl, 3 Iwa genin resting, a team of Taki nin running towards the center of the forest, another team of wait. Is that? Oh crap. Hinata thought to herself as she kept watch then saw something she didn't like. Moving quickly, Hinata got out of the tree limbs and ducked inside the underground den. She was already aware of Isaribi spooning Naruto from behind and was still somewhat annoyed by it, but right now she had a bigger concern. Naru-kun, wake up. She loudly whispered in his ear. He stirred but didn't look like he was waking up. Wake up. We've got trouble. What ties it? He asked in a dazed slur. A Konoha team is heading our way. And this one has a Hyuga in it. That jolted Naruto to full awareness. He could see the problem right away. If Hinata's Byakugan saw this genin and could tell they were a Hyuga, and was this worried about it, it could only mean one thing. The Hyuga saw her too and could see a foreign ninja had their bloodline. Since Isaribi was still asleep, Naruto just hoisted her onto his back. Let's go then. Hinata nodded and both left their hideout, immediately heading for the branches to jump through. Hinata reactivated her dujutsu. He's still on our tail. He definitely sees me and isn't looking happy. He's accompanied by a girl with some scrolls in her pockets and a guy in a green jumpsuit and a rather small chakra system. How do we lose him? Naruto asked. What about if you use your unbloodline to make me no longer have the Byakugan for a time? Long enough to throw them off. Hinata suggested. No good. Konoha's already on a witch hunt for anyone with the unbloodline. If they see that, it's like painting a big bullseye on our team. Naruto countered. Damn, you're right. How about gravity control? Good enough for me. Hang on. Naruto told her, only to get her to clamp onto him on his front side. I didn't mean literally, but I won't complain. Naruto then activated his gravity control Kekkei Genkai, briefly worried what that showed the pursuing Hyuga, and took to the air with his teammates in tow. The Hyuga chasing them stopped in his tracks, and his teammates soon did too to ask what was wrong. His response: "I must be more tired than I thought. I could have sworn I just saw them fly away like birds." Morning came, making it the second day of the second part of the Chunin exam. Naruto's team found a spot to sleep at the far end of the Forest of Death, away from the Konoha team they fled from. Fortunately they had no other encounters, but Hinata and then Isaribi still kept guard. The swimming enthusiast was up for the last round of nighttime guard duty, and heard a noise behind her. She turned around, armed with a kunai, only to see Naruto had just woken up. "Oh, good morning Naruto-kun. Sleep well?" He nodded. "Yeah, but Hina-chan needs some more. I thought I'd keep you company till we head out." She smiled. "I'd love that." The two then sat down to be comfortable but still remained cautious of their surroundings. Isaribi decided to initiate the conversation. "You know Naruto-kun, I'm kinda glad you stood up to Hinata-chan like that last night. You'll have a hard time keeping 9 women's respect if you let yourself be whipped like that." "I guess," he replied half-heartedly. She turned to face him. "Something wrong Naruto-kun?" He faced her before answering. "I'm just curious. Why exactly did you agree to be one of the 9 Isaribi-chan? I'm flattered and not against it, but I'd like to know why you'd want to be a part of this. I have a hard time understanding why any woman would, considering how I hear they hate unfaithful men and all." Isaribi fiddled with her hands, indicating she was a bit uncomfortable being put on the spot like that. "Well Naruto-kun, I've liked you for a long time. You were the first boy I got to know and you've always been my friend since then. I think I've basically had a crush on you my whole life. I was a little hurt when you told me that Hinata-chan was your girlfriend, but I wished you the best anyway because you still meant a lot to me. I think that was when I realized I had wanted to be your girlfriend too. When I heard you needed more girlfriends, I figured it was better to be on the edge of your heart if I couldn't be in the center." The memory of seeing Naruto and Hinata starting to date still made her heart ache. She knew why he chose her though. Those two were often together since Naruto needed to learn a taijutsu to go with his Neo-Byakugan, and Hinata needed to learn how to fight without using the Hyuga's Juken. The two had to always try new things out and be creative and compatible, so a relationship was inevitable. Only Haku, Sasama, and Fu got nearly as much of his attention in a similar way but they weren't in the same class as him so that increased the odds in Hinata's favor. Sensing her sadness, Naruto placed his arm around her shoulders to comfort her. She leaned into him more, eager to feel his warmth. "Besides, I have faith you'd stay faithful to us all. The fact that you care what we think and want us to be happy tells me you don't see us as sexual playthings to use until you get bored. Plus I'd be lying if I said you don't look downright hot in a swimsuit." She added, a bit more cheerful that moment. Naruto blushed. Thanks. And to be honest, I'd have to say the same to you." Now Isaribi blushed. "Thanks. Hey, I've always had this fantasy about going skinny dipping with you. Can we do that when we get back home?" Naruto's blush deepened and a small trickle of blood escaped his nose. Isaribi couldn't prevent herself from chuckling at his response. "I promise you'll like what you see," she coyly offered, pressing herself against him just to see his reaction. "I don't doubt that," he mumbled, still a little in shock at the notion of skinny dipping with a girl, even if Hinata had made the offer. Isaribi leaned against him some more, without pressing herself now, and rested a hand on his chest, feeling his hard muscles she enjoyed looking at when he was shirtless. "Naruto-kun, as long as we're on the subject, why did you ask me to be one of the 9? He cleared his throat. "Because you're one of my dear friends too Isaribi-chan. I've always enjoyed when we had fun together growing up. I would have enjoyed training with you, but none of my Kekkei Genkai were compatible with your training." She nodded, remembering how she was trained under a former Kiri nin in her particular fighting style thanks to Orochimaru before becoming a genin and being placed on Enko's team. "I'm glad you always did make time for me though," she commented. "I'll try to make more, when we're not on missions and such. But it will be tough since I still need to give the others personal time too," he told her. Feeling flattered, Isaribi leaned up and kissed his cheek. "It's okay, Being with you on your team and doing missions is good enough, so don't stress yourself too much for my sake. But I won't say no to more time when you want it. Before the two could say anything more, they heard approaching footsteps from behind and saw Hinata walk towards them rubbing the sleep out of her right eye. Good morning Naru-kun, she said as she came up to him and kissed his cheek, where Isaribi had already kissed the other one moments ago. Good morning Hina-chan, he told her. See, was last night really so bad? Isaribi asked. Hinata mocked sighed. It could have been worse. That Hyuga could have caught up to us after all. Let's have something to eat then get moving so he can't do that anytime soon. Naruto offered. Hinata nodded, happy for the distraction. She woke up a few minutes after Naruto did but let him have some time alone with Isaribi. As much as she resisted, she couldn't help but eavesdrop a little. I'm glad that including Isaribi-chan turned out to be a good idea. I'm still not fully okay with having to share Naru-kun intimately with others, but I guess if she isn't trying to steal my man from me I can tolerate it a bit more. Even so, I had to stop them before she went any further. I don't want Naru-kun getting ideas that the other girls are more. She found herself unable to finish that particular thought. The trio ate a small breakfast of rations and did some stretches to get their bodies ready for the next day of challenges. They were in a hurry though, since now they had only 4 days counting today to complete the test. By now some teams were bound to be missing their original scroll, so if they were still in the game they'd be even more desperate. Without being asked to, Hinata activated her Byakugan and scanned the area. The first thing she looked for was the Hyuga from last night. She breathed a sigh of relief when she didn't see him, and then focused on finding teams with the scroll they needed, the Heaven Scroll. There's a Kusa team to the northwest with the scroll we need and a Hoshi team to the south-southeast with one too. The Kusa team is next to a river and the Hoshi team is by some bramble bushes and a cave. Which should we try to fight? I say the Kusa team. I could use that terrain better. Isaribi said. I gotta admit I've always wanted to see a Hoshi team in action, but now's probably not the time to be too curious. Naruto commented. Kusa it is then. Hinata claimed. Let's try the less surprising one first. With that, the trio took to the trees and headed northwest. Hinata kept her Byakugan on to detect any threats along the way and fortunately found none. They stopped before they could be noticed. Hinata used her Dujutsu to overlook the area. 3 genin as usual, all wearing green ponchos and straw rain hats. They're arranged in a triangular formation setting up tripwires, underground paper bombs, and kunai firing traps as well. So they're planning on resting here for a while, meaning they were seriously exhausted not too long ago and are still recovering and planning their next move. Or maybe they're taking down the traps and getting ready to move on soon. Either way, we should strike quickly. Agreed. How? Isaribi asked. Naruto smirked. I think I know how. The 3 Kusa nin went about their business, ignorant of their current observers. I'm done over here. One of them shouted out to his partners. Almost. Hopefully this should keep anyone out. Another said after planting some paper bombs underground like mines, some deeper than others to prevent anyone from using underground earth jutsus to sneak attack. The third member suddenly stopped what they were doing. They turned their head left and right to search the area. Something's wrong. I can sense a chakra source, but I can't pinpoint it. Try harder Karen. The second Kusa genin plainly told his Sensor Kunoichi teammate while he continued on his own work. Easy for you to say. She replied flatly as she continued to search her surroundings. Weird, for some reason, the direction I'm feeling the most chakra from is. She paled as she slowly lifted her head. Right. Above me. When she looked up but not towards the trees, she saw a brunette boy wearing a music note Hitai 8 actually hovering above her, his arms crossing and his feet positioned to make it appear he was standing on something invisible. And the chakra amounts she sensed coming from this guy was leaps and bounds above anyone she even encountered before. Guys, we've got trouble. Karen warned her partners, all the while afraid and in awe of this newcomer. They turned towards her and were just as shocked to see a ninja floating in the air. Nice trap, but you forgot to consider an attack from above. Naruto stated. Oh yeah. Try dodging this. One of the Kusa male genin said as he threw several kunai. Weight increase. With a mere wave of his hand, Naruto made all kunai stop and fall straight to the ground. What the hell? He didn't even touch them. The second Kusa male genin said in shock. Naruto then waved his hand over them all. Weight increase. Suddenly, all three Kusa shinobi collapsed to the ground and couldn't get up. What's going on? I can't move. My body is so heavy. What did he do? Karen asked herself. Hina-chan, Isaribi-chan, act now. Naruto called out. The two girls came out and approached the downed team carefully. Not out of fear, but caution for Naruto's gravity control jutsu. He could either target just them, or make everything in a specific area feel the effects. They didn't want to walk into the area if they'd become affected too and become so heavy their legs couldn't support their new weight. Fortunately it turned out only the shinobi were affected, so Hinata and Isaribi remained their normal weight. Hinata went up to one of the male genin and took the scroll out of his pocket. Or rather she struggled to. Naru-kun, you made the scroll heavy too. It weighs as much as a bowling ball. My bad. Weight decrease. He replied. He couldn't return it to its original weight without cancelling out the entire jutsu, so he settled for making that specific item lighter. The scroll got lighter as intended and now could be lifted without hassle. Thanks. Isaribi pulled out some monowire. Good. Now let's keep them from following us. We can't tie them up if they're too heavy to move. Hinata pointed out. Isaribi blinked twice in realization. Damn, you're right. Her initial idea for restraining these guys was to wrap them up in wire to make them unable to move after they got away. That couldn't be done under the circumstances. But then she got another idea and snapped her fingers. Wait, I know what to do. She reached into her equipment pouch and pulled out 3 nets made from monowire that had kunais on the edge. Hinata smiled. That should do. Girls, I'm on a time limit here. Naruto said, reminding them he couldn't do this for too much longer. He even already came down to the ground but still had about 6 or 7 minutes left to use this bloodline. I'm on it. I'm on it. The purple-haired girl replied impatiently. She threw a net over each of the Kusa shinobi and used 6 kunai apiece to anchor the nets down, effectively holding them in place. And since monowire was a strong metallic thread that could cut flesh at times, getting free was not going to be easy. We're almost out of kunais now, Naru-kun. The Byakugan wielder told the disguised blonde. I'll make us some more when we have some spare time. But for now, let's go. That should do it. Isaribi told them as she finished up tying down the last of the trio. Should I add an explosive tag too? That would be overkill. Let's just hurry to the tower. I bet I can get us there in less than 5 minutes. Naruto replied. Hinata nodded and smiled. Final round, here we come. She then grabbed onto Naruto so she could fly with him. Isaribi had to be placed on Naruto's back, since she still didn't care much for heights, and the young man took to the sky. Just who is that guy? Karen asked herself. Naruto landed before his time for using gravity control ended behind some trees close to the central tower of the forest. He stopped to rest for a bit and let the 9-second minimum before he could use any other Kekkei Genkai pass. Before we enter, I better make us some more weapons to replace what we lost in this test. Probably couldn't hurt. Isaribi agreed. Naruto activated his Tetsuden and made the dragon, horse, and monkey hand signs. Metal style. Weaponsmith jutsu. He thrust open palms onto the soil and sent his chakra into it. From the ground emerged 3 dozen kunais, a dozen shuriken, and some steel monowire. That should take care of it, he said as he turned his Tetsuden off. Each of them pocketed the new weapons, but only Isaribi gained the monowire. She used it more than they did after all. Ready? Hinata asked. Her teammates nodded. Let's go inside then. The 3 approached the tower but didn't open the door right away, wondering if anything or anyone would try to stop them. When nothing did, they opened the door and carefully went inside. They saw a large open room with 2 staircases on either side, each leading to a stretched balcony, possibly for viewing purposes. So what do we do now? I don't see anything. Isaribi complained as they walked towards the center. Hey, what's that? Naruto asked, pointing towards the far side of the room. On the wall there appeared to be an inscription written out on a wall scroll. Isaribi started reading it out loud. If heaven does not exist, enrich your knowledge and prepare for the chance. If Earth does not exist, run the fields in search of an advantage. Open the series of heaven and earth, and the perilous way shall be redressed. This is namely the secret of the one that guides. Okay, any idea what that means? Naruto asked. Something tells me we're not supposed to take that literally. Hinata thought it over. It mentioned heaven and earth, just like the scrolls we acquired do. And it says, open the series. Maybe they have some connection to this message. Naruto pulled both scrolls out and held them before himself. Should we open them and find out for sure? The proctor said not to open them, but now that we're here I'm not sure what to do about it. You'd think there would be someone here waiting to retrieve them or something. Hinata answered, then she activated her Byakugan again. That's odd. There are several Konoha nin in other parts of this tower that are just lounging around, as if they're waiting for something. And I don't see any other genin teams here. We may be the first. Gravity control gave us a good speed advantage. Naruto commented. Should we find someone? Hinata shook her head. That could reveal my Byakugan if we just inexplicably knew where to look. Oh, for crying out loud. Isaribi moaned as she took the scrolls from Naruto. Let's just open them and see if that changes anything. We followed the rules so we shouldn't get disqualified for this. Before they could stop her, she broke both seals on the scrolls and unfurled them. Huh? What's that? They all asked when they saw the contents for both, which appeared to be a complex seal diagram. Then both diagrams started emitting thick smoke clouds, making Isaribi drop them and back away. Oh crap, I hope I didn't make a big mistake just then. The smoke cleared and there stood a person atop the two discarded scrolls. He appeared to be a chunin of Konoha with a pineapple hairstyle and a scar across his nose. Whoa, I'm surprised to see someone make it here so soon. I was expecting one more day at least. He casually claimed. All three Oto genin got into a defensive stance. Relax, my name's Iruka Yumino and I'm here to tell you three you passed the second test. Good. So now what? Naruto asked as they all relaxed. Since there's still plenty of time left in the test, you three can relax until the deadline at noon 3 days from now, as long as you stay in the tower. When the deadline comes you and all other passing genin must here in this room to be considered eligible for advancement to the third round. Will we be given a reminder on the 5th day to be here on time? It's common courtesy. Hinata asked. Iruka nodded. Yes you will. Why do you ask? Just a precaution. Isaribi answered. Iruka nodded. In any case, take this time to unwind. There are rooms provided, which teams will have to share despite differing genders so we can keep track of the numbers easier, and food, hot water, and medical treatment if needed will be provided for the next few days. Think of it as our way of congratulating you for getting this far and showing hospitality to guests in our village. Just don't overindulge yourselves please. We can do that. By the way, I'm just curious, but are we the first team to show up? Naruto asked. I think you are. Iruka answered with a hint of pride strangely in his voice. Naruto smiled. Won't Konoha be upset to hear Oto finished first? But soon comes the true test of strength. Hey, is there an indoor pool or something here? Isaribi asked. Yeah, there's a small one. Swimming is the best exercise after all. Iruka told her. You brought your swimsuit on this test? Naruto asked in disbelief. Isaribi smiled and winked. Nope. Come on, Naruto-kun. You promised. Isaribi said as she tried dragging her reluctant teammate down a hallway, with Hinata just watching with a small frown. No I didn't. You asked me but I never gave an answer. Naruto semi-shouted. What's wrong Naruto-kun? Does the idea of swimming with me au natural really disgust you? Isaribi asked, sounding a little hurt. What? I'm not disgusted. Then why the fuss? Hinata withheld her desire to sigh. It's me, I know it. He's resisting because of me. In that case, I should do something to make him decide for his own sake rather than mine. She then stepped up and whispered loudly into Naruto's ear. What if I went swimming too? That caused the young man's man to go full meltdown. Thoughts of Hinata and Isaribi both naked and sopping wet flashed through his mind and he zoned out with a nosebleed and a smile. Nice one Hinata-chan. Isaribi commented at seeing the reaction. Thanks. I'm actually kind of glad we make such an impact on him. The purple-haired girl nodded. I wonder why he was so hesitant. I mean, he's a healthy boy with several girls wanting him intimately. Shouldn't he be more curious than this? I'm flattered he's trying to be noble, but there is such a thing as too far. Hinata sadly nodded. Maybe that's my fault. I don't think he's fully accepted the sharing idea either yet, and I haven't done much to help that. You two better. I mean, do you want to have all 9 kids yourself? Isaribi asked. Hinata shook her head. No, Okawa-san convinced me that option was a bad choice. My mind knows the harem is a good idea, but my heart isn't fully convinced yet. Isaribi smiled. Well, a good bear swim should be good for you too. Naruto seemed to regain his senses again, unaware of what the 2 girls had been saying. Did I just seriously hear you two offer to go swimming? Naked. With me watching? Who said you would just be watching? Isaribi teasingly asked. Yeah. Hinata added. If we're treating you to a show, it's only fair you do the same for us. Naruto just looked at them both in disbelief. You can't be serious. Why not? Both girls asked. What if someone saw you? Naruto asked. Then you'd be there to kick their peeping asses. Isaribi answered matter-of-factly. Seeing his indecision remain, she applied the sad puppy eyes. You mean you won't defend your girls from perverts, Naruto-kun? Hinata added the sad puppy eyes too. You wouldn't leave 2 helpless women to the mercy of perverts, right, Naru-kun? Damn, I can see why this is considered a kinjutsu. The Jinchuriki told himself. Fine, you win. But I know neither of you are helpless. Hinata and Isaribi smiled, looking forward to this little activity. Finally, I can see it without needing the Byakugan. But no one finds out about this, you hear? He sternly told them, making them nod. A little later, Sasama, Haku, and Fu reached the team and were greeted by Konoha Chunin, who told them to relax. Right now they were walking down the halls trying to find the cafeteria. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Sasama muttered. I'd settle for a sandwich myself. Fu commented. I just want to lay down and not do anything for a while. After a quick bite, of course. Haku claimed. They passed a closed door with a window on it, and Haku froze as she happened to see what was on the other side. Sasama and Fu kept walking until they noticed their ice-using teammate had stayed behind. What's up? Fu asked. Naruto-kun, I think. Haku answered, her eyes never leaving the window. What? The other girls asked, then looked for themselves, gasping at what they saw. There was a pool in the room, Olympic-sized, with 3 people inside the water. And it was clear that the 2 girls were topless and not trying to hide it that well. The one boy in the water was most likely Naruto, since Hinata and Isaribi were recognizable, but it couldn't be determined if he was bare or not from their viewpoint. Are they really doing that? Sasama asked in disbelief. Only one way to find out. Fu said before she opened the door and walked inside. The sound of the door opening instantly caught the swimmer's attention and the 2 girls hid themselves under the water. Having fun, Naruto-kun. I'm surprised you didn't invite us too. Haku and Sasama entered too, blushes on their faces almost matching the ones on Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi. The newcomers couldn't help but look at Naruto, who positioned his hands underwater to cover himself, letting them know he was bare too. Mind if we join you? We agreed to share him too. Fu asked as she got ready to take her own shirt off. Would it matter if we said no? Isaribi asked, her blush fading. Nope. Fu replied as she tore her red pack and white shirt off, much to Naruto's surprise and excitement. Then she took off her skirt, but slowly removed her bra and panties, keeping her eyes on Naruto as she did her striptease. She then jumped into the water, splashing everyone in the process. You coming in too? Hinata asked the other 2. Sasama and Haku shared a look. Why not? Haku said before she started taking off her own clothes, a bit slower and more bashful than her green-haired teammate had been. You joining us, Sasama? She asked after she removed her top but saw her orange-haired teammate hadn't done anything. Don't be a party pooper, Sasama. Fu said as she treaded water. Sorry, but I'm really hungry so I'm going to have to pass. Sasama nervously replied. Maybe next time though. She then left the room. Haku shrugged as she finished undressing and waded into the water. She must really be hungry to turn away this opportunity. Or just shy. So much for no one finding out, Hanaru-kun. Hinata whispered to her boyfriend. Yeah, and now all the other girls will want to try this with me. He replied. Fu engulfed him in a cushiony hug. And what's wrong with that Naruto-kun? He froze up but didn't fight to get away. Honestly, you'd think a guy with 9 girlfriends would be more open to explore things like this. Yeah, Naruto-kun. Isaribi agreed. If we approve, then what's the harm? You're not dishonoring us this way. Naruto was released so he could answer. I'm just having a hard time believing you girls are really doing this. I figured it would be years before you let me see your bodies like this. Didn't you ever use your Neo-Byakugan to take a look under our clothes? Hinata asked. He shook his head negatively. Naru-kun, relax. We all care deeply for you and like knowing you find us attractive and sexy. Don't be afraid to show it so often, for all our sakes. I know. I just don't want to go too far. He told them all. We won't. Isaribi reassured him with her own cushioned hug. But in the meantime, let's have some fun. Noon on the 5th day came, and the second portion of the Chunin exams was officially over. Teams had been coming to the tower over the past few days little by little. Naruto, Isaribi, and Hinata stood in the entrance room to the tower along with other teams. They recognized Sasama, Fu, Haku, Kin, Zaku, Dosu, Gaara, Tamari, and Kankuro right away. They also saw Sasuke, Sakura, and Kiba, along with 3 other unrecognizable teams from Konoha in the room with them. Although apparently one of them was a Hyuga, which unnerved Hinata a small amount. 4 teams from Konoha, 4 teams from elsewhere, making 24 passing genin total. Naruto noted. I wonder what the third part will be and, if Subsonic is right, how it can be rigged. All the genin, some looking more worse for wear than others, stood in the room as Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage, entered the room dressed in his robes with a pipe in his mouth. Naruto and Hinata did their best to avoid glaring at the old man, having heard many horrible things about this seemingly gentle old man who ultimately endangered some lives for his own sake. The 8 Junin who taught these teams, being Anko, Kabuto, Kurenai, Kakashi, Asuma, Gai, Genma, and Baki were already there, having been informed their genin made it this far, and watched from the balconies above, among a few other Junin from Konoha to stand guard for the Hokage like Ibiki and Yugao. Sarutobi cleared his throat before addressing the genin, who moved into a neatly arranged grid, with teammate being near teammate. Congratulations on making it this far, all of you. I'm impressed that such a large number got through the forest of death this time. Usually the numbers we get are single digit. And I'm impressed so many of you are first-timers. Your senseis should be proud. Before we head on to the third part of the exam, there's something I'd like you all to know. He continued, making the attending genin a bit more curious, even the Oto ones. It concerns the true reason we have these tests. The true reason. Many asked themselves. Why do you think all our nations take these tests together in a partnership? Sarutobi asked, pausing briefly to see if anyone could answer, even if wrongly. None bothered to, so he explained it. The official reasons are, to promote friendship between the nations and to raise the level of the shinobi of each. However, there's more to it than that. This exam is in fact a replacement for war between the 5 great nations. A few eyebrows were arched in the young audience. What does that mean? Tenten quietly asked herself. If you look back in history, you'll see most wars, be they big or small, happened between the 5 great nations, with the smaller ones occasionally getting caught in the middle. After the Third Great Shinobi War, the nations decided to seek an alternative to the wasteful and inconclusive warring. Their agreement ended up creating the Chunin exams. So is this for deciding who's a Chunin or not? Kiba asked. Yeah, this test does determine who's fit to advance to the next level of the ninja ranks and who isn't. However, there's another side to this test. Sarutobi answered. Each country's shinobi risk their lives to get their job done and show how strong and effective their ninja are. By doing so, they're making their countries look the most effective at what they do. And that pleases clients. Clients? Sakura asked herself. The third exam will have many witnesses watching. Among them will be daimyos of various lands and several influential individuals, all from which a ninja village get the work they need to make money. If the strength of a country is clear, that country will get more business and more income. And if the country is viewed as weak, they will lose business. It will send a message to clients and other villages that one village is stronger than another, which will help the economy and hopefully discourage any unnecessary bloodshed between villages. But why do we have to fight with our lives on the line just to pad other people's wallets then? Konkuro asked with a small amount of irritation in his voice evident. Sarutobi took another hit from his pipe before answering. The strength of a country is shown in the strength of its hidden village. And the strength of the hidden village is shown in the strength of the shinobi it produces. And the only way to determine a shinobi's true strength is in a life-threatening situation. Realization dawned on many of the genins' faces. Anyone can be a marksman when the target doesn't fire back, and anyone can be a winner when there's no risk involved. A true test of power and talent comes when the other side is just as determined to win as you are, and maybe a bit sneakier too. Only then can you say you truly have what it takes to be called strong. Other times, you're just lucky. I hate to say it, but he's right. Enko thought. This exam is set up to test how sharp your skills are when you really need to use them, and for countries to see each other's strengths. If your lives weren't at risk, then it would be nothing but a talent show. But then, why say it's about establishing friendship if we have to fight like that then? Ino asked as she raised her hand up to be noticed better. I was not lying, but you may have misinterpreted my words. The Sandame told her. Risking lives is a fact of the shinobi lifestyle. That is a key part of friendship and trust in the ninja lifestyle. It's much easier to trust someone and be their friend once you've risked your life and seen they're willing to cover your back for you. Makes sense. Sasama thought, among others. Now, before we begin the third round, I'll tell you one more thing. Sarutobi added. This is not just a test. It is a life-risking battle. Where your life, your future, and your village's honor on the line. You have much more to worry about than just whether or not you get promoted to a higher rank. Is that understood? He saw all genin nod. Good, now to explain the third test itself. He made a, come here, motion with his hand towards the balcony to his right. A Konoha Junin appeared before him and kneeled down. Cough. I will continue from here if you wish, Hokage-sama. By all means, Gecko-san. Sarutobi told him. The Junin stood up and turned around to face the gathered genin. His Hitai-8 was modified to cover his whole scalp, leaving parts of his brown hair to hang from under it. His skin looked a little pale and he had dark shadows under his eyes, making him look tired or unhealthy. Hello everyone, I'm Hayate Gecko, referee of, the third test. Before we start, there's something I need to tell you all. His voice sounded strained, like he was close to losing it. He looks like he should be in a hospital. Hinata commented. What I need to say is that we're going to need a preliminary round before the third exam starts, to decide who gets to participate. Hayate told them. Preliminary round. Naruto thought, remembering Subsonic's warning. Why do we need that? Yeah, why can't we all pass? We made it this far after all. Shikamaru added, a bit angry at the idea. Because this year we have too many genin making it this far. Hayate answered, pleasing no one with it. So how is that a bad thing? Tamari asked. Like Hokage-sama said, many people will be visiting to, observe these upcoming matches, for both business consideration and entertainment. In past years, we've always scheduled and arranged the matches to take up only a few hours. Too many participants means the third test will take up a lot of time and could end up boring the clients and risking future business. So we have limited time to showcase the third exam, thus we need, closer to 10 participants, not 20 like we have now. The rules state we must have a preliminary round now to thin the numbers down. Hayate told them. Hey, if a lot of people are coming here from other places, taking long trips to do so, wouldn't it be more worth their time and effort to host a long round rather than a short rushed one? I mean, if I were a client coming cross-country for entertainment, I'd be more eager to do so for 2 hours worth instead of just one. Naruto suggested, making several other genin, even Konoha ones, nod in agreement. Hayate shook his head. Sorry kid, but rules are rules and we're already, scheduled for the third round, so we can't fit 24 genin trying to get through it. Like it or not, we need to reduce this group in half. Naruto frowned. Yeah, and I bet I know which half they want removed. So anyway, the preliminary round will begin in a few minutes. Anyone who feels, cough cough, they are not up to fighting within the hour should quit now and walk away, hoping for better luck next time. What? We gotta do this now? Kiba asked. Hayate nodded. The prelims will be one-on-one fighting in a free-for-all manner with no time limit, cough, and they will be done right after we get this discussion over. So if anyone feels they simply don't have the energy to go on right away, then raise your hand and drop out. Oh, and at this point, only individual skills, cough, will be tested so one person can drop out but the rest of the team can continue on without harm. He paused for a while, but no one offered to drop out. Very well then. We shall move from here to the arena in the tower and begin a series of, cough, one-on-one fights, where both participants must fight as if in a real-life confrontation. Since we have exactly 24 participants, we will have 12 rounds. Still a little more than we prefer, but enough to squeeze by, and the winners, cough, will advance to the third round. The battles basically have no rules, so victory is gained by either death or surrender in the other genin. And I'll jump in and, cough, declare a victor if I feel the fight's going too far. Now, let's proceed to the arena. A few minutes later, everyone was in the fighting arena with a large bust of two arms making a ram sign on one of the walls. The Junin were up on the balconies again and the genin were down on the arena floor with Hayate. The matches will be selected randomly on the, cough, monitor overhead. We've had time to enter all your names in the random generator program so we wouldn't need to input them now. The selected genin will need, cough, to come down here and await my signal to start while all others must wait on the balcony until their turn or to await the end of the prelims. Medical help will be provided to those that need it. Now, without further, cough, ado, let's get started and see who's in the first round. All eyes went up on the monitor, which buzzed to life and had several characters randomly and very quickly flash on it. After 4 seconds it came to a stop and the first match was declared. Isaribi Maikai vs. Sasuke Uchiha. Okay, will everyone except those with their, cough, names declared please leave the arena floor? Hayate asked everyone. The group of genin split up and headed for the viewing alcoves, the 4 Konoha groups heading for the one at the east side of the room and the 3 Oto groups and Solo Suna group heading for the west side alcove. As they left, the 2 remaining genin each heard something from a passing teammate. Good luck Isaribi-chan, but remember, Subsonic has plans for this guy. Naruto told his purple-haired partner, who nodded. Show everyone how good you really are Sasuke-kun. Sakura casually told her emo Avenger, almost sounding like she herself would be judging him too, which made him frown a bit. When all non-participants left the ground level, Isaribi and Sasuke stood facing each other at opposing sides of the room. Hayate stood off to the side near the armed statue. Isaribi quickly looked over her foe. From what I've heard this guy was considered the strongest in his class, but only because some genius in this village thought he'd throw a tantrum and leave if he was anything less. So he's probably not that strong, but I'm not going to assume he's feeble. And if what Subsonic told me is true, then I may have to use my non-mark trump card early to finish this quickly. Sasuke looked over her as well. I know I saw this girl back in Wave. So someone in her group, maybe even her, was the one to take my Sharingan away. And not only that, but she has this strange dark chakra she can use. I better fight her as if she was Itachi if I want to see how good I really am against someone like her. Are both contestants ready? Hayate asked. Both nodded and the Junin raised his hand. Then, begin. He quickly dropped his hand and left the area. Sasuke took a stance but didn't make any move to attack. The Uchiha were by nature copiers and it was much easier to copy someone when you let them make the first move. Even though he didn't have his Sharingan anymore, this behavior was set into his mind from years of practice in the Uchiha style of fighting. He would await her attempt to strike, then counterstrike and from there do as he pleased to win. Isaribi took her own stance. She grabbed a pair of trench knives much like Asuma used and held them before herself arms crossed, right in front of left, and shifted her legs so most of her weight was supported on her right leg and back. Kakashi looked on at the Oto Kunoichi curiously. Wait, I'm sure I've seen that stance before. But where? Knowing she had to make the first move, Isaribi charged at Sasuke who dodged to his right. Almost instantly, Isaribi slammed her left hand on the floor and spun on it to make a swinging arch kick from behind, her right leg out straight and her left leg bent back. This kick hit the Uchiha in the side rather forcefully. He grabbed her leg before she could withdraw it from his reach, but she countered by snapping her left leg forward to hit his own and offset his balance. Sasuke didn't fall over, but he released Isaribi's leg and allowed her to backflip away to get some distance. Weird, she has weapons but she didn't use them. And she moved like she knew I was going to dodge. Like I was supposed to dodge. Sasuke thought, analyzing the situation. She hit the bottom of my ribs with that kick and it still stings. I better try some ninjutsu to keep her at bay. Sasuke performed the horse and tiger hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He then exhaled a fireball the size of a person towards his opponent, more to see her reaction than actually defeat her. Isaribi surprised him and a few others by running towards the wall behind her, and rebound jumping off it and over the fireball. While in the air she pulled a scroll out of one of her pockets. You know how they say, fight fire with fire. Personally I prefer to fight fire with water. She landed, bit her thumb, and smeared the blood on a storage seal in the scroll. Tenten watched it with much curiosity while Kakashi was now almost sure he recognized Isaribi's fighting style. From out of the seal came a huge amount of water, gushing out like a fire hose. Sasuke instinctively backed up to avoid getting wet, but Isaribi didn't appear to be aiming the water, just letting the seal empty. Since there were no drains in the room, the water continued to rise very quickly, reaching Sasuke's knee level within 20 seconds and still showing no signs of stopping. I knew it. Kakashi told him. Knew what, sensei? Sakura asked. That girl's fighting style originated in Land of Water. It's called a Sayotaki, the crushing cascade taijutsu. It's designed so the user's movements mimic the nature of violent water. The fighter can make a heavy impact yet remains nimble enough to keep moving after any hit or miss. Accuracy must be sacrificed for the sake of maximizing damaging impact. Kakashi explained. So whenever she attacks, she's more focused on how hard she's hitting rather than where she's hitting. But how could someone who's clearly not a Kiri-nin even know this style? I only know of it thanks to my past experiences. The Cycloptic Junin asked himself. Then there's no problem, right? Sasuke-kun's too tough for her to hit. The Pinkett claimed, asked. Normally, but there's a reason she brought all that water with her, Sakura. Kakashi told his student, making her wonder what he meant. A Sayotaki was designed so that Kiri-nin could fight both in and out of water. In a watery environment like a sea or lake, they have a really big advantage. Sasuke's going to have a real tough time now. The water finally came to a stop, but the entire room was more than halfway full of water. Apparently the door into the room was sealed at the bottom and edges so water couldn't leak out that water with it being closed. Sasuke treaded water but looked at Isaribi in a mixture of awe and anger when he saw her calmly stand atop the water. What the hell? How can she stand on water like that? Sakura asked. Everyone who heard her, minus Kakashi and Kiba, gave her an, "Are you serious? Look. You mean you don't know the waterwalking technique?" Ino asked. You mean anyone can do that? Sakura asked, genuinely surprised by the mere notion. Genma, the sensei for Team 8 of Konoha, gave Kakashi a bothered look. Kakashi-san, you mean to tell me that you actually nominated your team for this exam without even teaching your students that? He could tell by Sasuke's emergence in water that the Uchiha didn't know it either. What the fuck were you thinking? I thought this would wake them up to the realities of the shinobi world, let them see the world isn't going to act like their dreams are the only ones that matter. Kakashi defended himself. Even so, that's pretty foolish, and I think you can be brought up on charges for knowingly endangering your genin students. Genma replied. Meanwhile, as the Konoha shinobi were discussing amongst themselves, the fight between genin continued on. Isaribi took a breath and let herself sink under the surface. Sasuke kept his eyes on her, wondering just what she could do in all this water. She's yet to do a water jutsu, so maybe that's not the reason for this. Also, this tastes like saltwater. Why did she use saltwater? Isaribi got next to the wall and got ready to spring off it, the momentum vital to her next attack. Tactic 1 Piranha Bite. She sprung off the wall with her arms forward, knives ready. Sasuke kicked his legs to defend himself when she got closer, but she still managed to make several cuts on the submerged parts of his body. Tactic 2 Shark Bite. She added as she swam forward and past him, turning around to attack him in a similar manner from behind. Isaribi came up for air and Sasuke got to the wall. Unable to stand on the now bloodied water, he put chakra in his feet to stand on the wall. It was tough to remain horizontal like that, so he crouched down, keeping his eye on the girl. Damn, there's no way my fire jutsus can dry up all this water before she attacks again. And I'm betting she's got even more stored away. Isaribi swam to the floor and readied herself to spring from the bottom. She then clapped her hands together, making her trench knives held close like a two-point spearhead. Sasuke saw this and knew he had to dodge or suffer a nasty wound. Tactic 3 Dolphin Bite. Isaribi said before she rocketed herself upwards and out of the water like a dolphin. Sasuke jumped away from the wall and while upside down in the air he made two hand signs. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Unfortunately for him the Oto Kunoichi dove back under before he could hit, making the fireball only damage the wall. Both seem good at dodging, although she's apparently better. Kurenai thought as she watched. Sasuke landed in the water and Isaribi looked ready to attack again. Think Sasuke, if I could just stand on the water like she did I'd be able to fight back. How do I? Wait, maybe it's like the tree walking technique. Just put chakra on the bottom of my feet until I float. I've gotta try it. Sasuke flipped over and came up for air. Once he was at the surface, he forced a lot of chakra into his feet, making his whole body rise quickly. After a moment he stopped and used the regular amount for tree walking, and it worked. But only for a moment and he sank again. Amazing. He almost had it with no instructions. Too bad he didn't know to modify the chakra flow to match the ever-changing surface of the water. Kakashi thought, impressed with his student. He wanted to tell Sasuke how to perform the technique correctly, but doing so would count as interference and automatically disqualify the Uchiha. Also, even if he could tell Sasuke how, it was highly unlikely that his student would be able to use it before his opponent continued her aquatic assault. Seeing he could not stand on water right away, and seeing Isaribi another piranha bite attack, Sasuke thought up every countermeasure he could do, and reached one logical response. He sighed and looked angry with closed eyes. Proctor, I forfeit. What? Many people from Konoha asked. Considering how proud Sasuke was, forfeiting always seemed like the last thing he'd ever do. Hayate reappeared and stood on the water, making Isaribi stop her preparations and come up for air. You sure about that? Cough. Sasuke nodded, still looking upset. I hate to admit it, but there's nothing I can do to defeat her like this. I'd rather deal with the humiliation of surrender than the humiliation of defeat. Okay. Winner by forfeit Isaribi Maikai. Hayate announced, making the Oto Nin cheer for their comrade. Now could someone, cough, please get rid of this water so we can have, cough cough, our next match. I'll do it. Isaribi said before pulling out her scroll and resealing all the water away back into it, leaving everyone in it unaffected but dry again. Once done she pocketed it and the arena was set for the next round. I gotta ask, why did you use saltwater? Sasuke asked. Isaribi shrugged. No reason, I just had it available. I could have easily used freshwater too but oh well. Next match will be announced soon. Hayate told everyone as Sasuke and Isaribi left the fighting area. Isaribi got a pat on the back from her teammates, unable to hug Naruto for fear of that being used against them later on. Way to go Isaribi-chan. Never a doubt in my mind. The young man told her. Thanks Naruto-kun. I'm actually a bit amazed he couldn't walk on water, though it's not like I could drag him under if he could. She replied with a smile, resisting the urge to kiss him. Sasuke meanwhile was avoiding looking at anyone, except Kakashi whom he looked at angrily. You should have taught me more. You should probably get those wounds looked at. You're still dripping blood. Kakashi responded. Sasuke snorted. Maybe I will. Ha. The rookie of the year, beaten up by a girl. Kiba said mockingly, earning him a glare from his teammates. I hope you have to fight a kunoichi then Kiba. Sasuke stated before walking away to the infirmary. The screen started working, and within seconds the next two names were displayed. Kintsuchi vs. Shino Aburame. The two contenders received knowing nods from their teammates and went down to the arena. Ready? Hayate asked, awaiting any sign of wished delay and receiving none. Begin. He then left the area. Shino made no effort to strike, so Kin chose to make the first move. She withdrew some Senbon and threw them towards the Aburame, who easily dodged and noticed the bells attached. Odd, her throw was amateurish, as if she wanted me to dodge. As for the bells, the logical answer to having such a giveaway is she wants me to hear them. It must be a decoy or a setup for a grander tactic. Shino analyzed, wondering how to respond. He stealthfully released a few bugs, few being a general term in comparison to the true size of his hive, and had them move to behind the girl without flying or moving in a large noticeable group. I'm glad Kabuto-sensei taught us a bit about the clans of this village. Kin thought as she eyes a couple approaching beetles. This guy's part of that creepy bug clan. So he should be difficult to trick, but not impossible. Maybe I should test him with a lower rank genjutsu just to see how it works on his type. If it doesn't, I'll try something stronger. Kin threw a few more Senbon with bells attached at Shino, who ducked and rolled to his right to avoid them. Kin quickly added another wave of Senbon and Shino dodged again without rolling away. Two of the needles struck his left arm, making him wince and grab at the injury. He saw these needles had no bells. So that's why she had bells attached. She wanted me to hear them so she could later add a soundless attack at the same time when my mind was preoccupied. Clever, but it won't be effective for long. He then noticed her fingers flexing a little in a pattern and got wary. I better finish her off rather than see what her village has to offer. He sent a signal to his insects via pheromones telling them to proceed with the attack. However, his insects just laid in waiting. What's wrong? Then he noticed there were 6 smiling kins standing before him. Just noticed did ya? The kins cockily asked in unison. I'm aware that insect central nervous systems are too simplistic to be affected by genjutsus, but the human central nervous system isn't. And even Aburame are wired the human way, am I right? So it's a genjutsu rather than a clone jutsu. That explains why I'm having trouble communicating with my hive. But when did she cast it? And how could I get caught in it? Shino asked himself. One of the weaknesses of the Aburame was that they needed sharpened, focused minds to effectively control their hives and the governing pheromones, or else they'd probably be eaten from the inside out. That's the reason why they always acted so stoic, their physiology depended on it. Thus they were vulnerable to genjutsu since having their perception altered left their mind subconsciously unable to manage the hive. That's also the reason they wore sunglasses most of the time, to minimize the risk of being caught in a genjutsu. He then noticed there were strings attached to the fingers of each kin's right hand that were also attached to the belled Senbon embedded in the wall behind him. Kin just smiled, pleased with her work. Looks like he hasn't caught on to how I'm doing this. Genjutsu are mind-affecting illusions that use the senses as a means to access the central nervous system. Sight isn't the only sense that can be tricked. Kami bless the guy who realized sound jutsus work perfectly for genjutsu. Shino didn't like the situation he was in. He couldn't tell which target was real, his hive couldn't respond, and his opponent looked like she was waiting for him to make a move so she could counter it. Hoping it wouldn't be a wasted effort, Shino withdrew a tanto hidden within his right sleeve and swung it down upon the threads near him on both sides. I'm glad Genma-sensei gave me this for emergencies. With the threads cut, the ringing from the bell stopped and Kin's genjutsu faded. Shino could now see just one of her and communicate with his bugs again. Now Kin didn't like the situation. I guess I should have just finished him off rather than testing him. This may cost me. Damn it. The steadily growing sound of buzzing behind her made her nervous but not daunted. She performed 5 quick hand signs. Ninja art. Sound epicenter. She clapped her hands together and a small sonic boom occurred, making Shino's bugs tumble and stop advancing. Even Shino felt a little disoriented from the shock with his ears ringing, while some of the observers felt some vibrations through the floor. What was that? Ino asked as she gripped the railing until the vibrations faded. Amazing. Instead of wasting her time on another genjutsu, she created a sonic boom all around herself to disrupt my hive directly. Attacking her is going to be harder than I thought. Shino told himself. Thinking he was out of options, Shino grabbed all his kunai and started throwing them one by one with each hand. Kin grabbed her own kunai and started deflecting them, the impact from the collisions causing her to take a step or two back still. She wanted to throw some of her own but Shino seemed to have no end of his throwing weapons. Guess I just have to wait till he runs out, she thought. Then Kin started feeling itchy and weak. What the? That was when she heard the buzzing sound again, and her eyes widened in shock. He distracted me and kept my hands busy long enough to tell his bugs what to do. Oh crap. She looked down and saw her lower body covered in chakra-eating beetles and they were spreading. Fortunately at least Shino had stopped his kunai assault. Get them off me. She tried swatting them all off. It's no use. Those insects will eat your chakra within moments. You can either surrender and walk away with enough to feel semi-comfortable, or continue until you pass out. Shino told her. Kin already felt the effect of the drain, causing her to fall to her knees. I can't surrender. Not here, not now. With her remaining strength, she pulled out a shuriken and threw it at him and then fell to the ground completely. The shuriken simply grazed by Shino's left ear but missed him. He didn't even try to dodge. Hayate eyed Kin for a moment before speaking up. Winner by defeat Shino Aburame. Shino recalled his bugs as medics came by to take Kin to the infirmary to recover. When he started walking away, he heard a small tearing sound and saw his Hitai-8 fall off his forehead, with a cut on the left side of the band tearing right through it and a few cut hairs falling with it. Interesting, even with her drained like that she came that close to hitting me. Had her aim been any better, I probably would have lost an eye right then. He knelt down to retrieve it, wondering how long it would take to repair the headband and how good Kin's aim really was when she actually wanted to hit her target, then went back up to join his team. I hope Kin-chan's going to be alright. Naruto said. She will be. Kabuto told him. The Aburame may be skilled at making their enemies go down quickly, but they rarely do long-term damage to their targets. She's just going to need a good night's rest then she'll be back to normal. The screen flashed and the next contestant's name were selected. Neji Hyuga vs. Hinata Hibiki. At first Hinata smiled when she saw her name on the monitor announcing her turn to compete. But that instantly turned into a frown when she saw the name of her opponent, and a growl in the back of her soon could be heard by those close to her. Naruto heard the growl and made her face him, her expression immediately softening at seeing him. Hina-chan, I understand your anger. So please, for me, don't go overboard with it. Use it if you have to, but don't go crazy. I'll try, she replied, and then walked off. What was that about? Zaku asked. Let's just say she could not have been given a worse opponent. Enko told him. Naruto nodded. Yeah, she'll have a hard time winning this one. Don't you have faith in your girlfriend, man? Zaku asked. Dosu was listening in on this with his teammate but stayed silent and watched the Hyuga boy come down the stairs. Of course I do. But there's a problem. Naruto answered. Hina-chan has issues with the Hyuga clan. Because of that, she may let her anger get the best of her and that will affect her performance. Also, there's no way for her to fight him effectively without revealing her eyes, which will cause problems for our village sooner than we want. Hinata was still wearing some blue contacts to hide the true color of her eyes, but she couldn't hide the bulging veins as effectively. So she can't win? Isaribi asked, concerned for her teammate. Naruto shook his head. No, she can win. It'll be hard, but she has one big advantage here. What's that? Zaku asked. Watch and see. The disguised Jinchuriki told the tube-armed boy. Down in the arena, Hinata and Neji were staring each other down. Neji stood a little relaxed but completely attentive and ready to slip into his Juken stance and finish this. His expression was calculating and leering, as if dismissing his opposition is worth his time and effort but ready to get rid of them anyway. Hinata however was tense and anxious, her fists balled and her expression offensive and wary. She looks like someone eager to shed my blood. Too bad she's not favored enough to do so. Neji told himself. I'd rather it be someone else, but at least I finally get to test my fighting style against one of these guys. Hinata told herself. Ready. Begin. Hayate declared, starting the match. You should forfeit this match. Neji calmly yet strongly recommended to Hinata. And why the hell should I? She asked. Because you're not favored. He told her, causing some confusion in many others that heard this. There are millions of people in just the elemental nations. Maybe more beyond their borders. Do you really think the gods favor us all equally? They don't. Some people are more favored than others and get the best in life while others get lucky occasional or no luck at all. You are not one of the favored ones, so you have little chance of defeating someone like me, so why waste both our time? Hinata was silent for a few seconds but soon scoffed. I'm not favored by the gods. Who are you to speak for them? You're not part of the clergy from what I can tell. And what makes you so damn certain they like you more than me? I know I am, because I was blessed with an impossible miracle, thus showing the gods favor my life over many others. You cannot possibly measure up to that, he told her. If you don't even know me, how can you be so certain of that? Hinata asked as she slipped into her stance, not wanting to continue this discussion any longer. Rather than take the Hyuga classic stance, she had been taught to stand like a kendoist without a sword and her hands stretched out like a Hyuga would. Neji saw this and got into the Hyuga stance, ready to fight with his Byakugan active. This fight will prove it better than my words can. My thoughts exactly. Hinata said. I guess there's no point in applying a genjutsu to cover myself here. I'm actually kind of amazed he didn't notice me using my eyes during the written test. Maybe he had other things on his mind, or maybe he did notice and may or may not have told someone about me. Either way, I better get this over with quickly. She then activated her own Byakugan. Neji's look of hostility deepened when he saw this. Oh, it was you that I saw with my clan's eyes. How did you acquire them? The same way you did. Then why are you not allied with Konoha like all Hyugas? Neji asked as he rushed towards her, eager to make her immobile but able to speak for a little longer. Hinata rushed at him too and the two started exchanging blows. The real question is, why should I be allied with Konoha? And didn't you see the monitor? I'm not a Hyuga. My name is Hibiki. Neji felt her chakra-covered fingers connect a few times, but his did too. It will be over soon. I can hit faster, so she can't possibly weaken me before I weaken her. Since she's not even from Konoha, that means she couldn't possibly have the training needed to be good with the Juken. Bitch is probably a bastard child from someone who out of village who managed to have a one-night stand with a Hyuga and somehow kept the pregnancy secret until now. Hinata surprised Neji by jumping away from him to gain some space and then started poking her own arms and torso. So surprised was he failed to notice she was striking all the points he had already struck. When she finished, she smirked dangerously and went back in for the close-up fight again. In the infirmary of the tower, Kin was placed on a small bed to recover by a medic Nin and made comfortable. The medic, one who had just a moment ago patched up Sasuke, checked her over as someone else entered the room. Anything interesting about this one? The medic shook her head. Sorry Ibiki-san. My diagnostic just shows chakra depletion standard for an Aburame attack. She'll recover within the hour. Why would you be interested if you don't mind me asking? Ibiki stepped up to the bed with the resting Kunoichi. It's actually Hokage-sama who wants answers. He just asked me to see what I could find out on my own when Genin from this new village had to go here. You know, see if I can get some information from them that could indicate any threats towards us. But wouldn't that be considered a violation of the international Chunin exam laws? The medic asked. Having someone from the T&I department take a foreign shinobi into custody without legitimate reason would be open grounds for an international incident to arise. Not if we find something. Ibiki answered. The medic wasn't convinced that easily. But on what grounds do you have to justify this if forced to? Saying, because the Hokage was curious wouldn't work. It didn't work when the Mizukage tried that approach years ago. Ibiki gave the medic his trademark frightening grin, the one that says he was in complete control of your fate from this point on. Who's going to force us to testify anything? If no one says a word about this, and her village is told she, unfortunately suffered worse than expected, who's the wiser? The medic looked disgusted. You mean you're going to? Ibiki unleashed some ki. Unless you want to lose your career and freedom on the charge of interfering with T&I work, you're going to forget everything that you just heard. The medic nodded. The sound of a door opening immediately captured the attention of the two ninja and they turned to see the approacher. In strolled a casual-looking Kabuto. Hi. He friendly greeted with a small wave. I'm the Junin of this girl's squad and I thought I'd check on her. I'm not sure how you can. The medic told him, still a bit fearful from Ibiki earlier. I'm a trained medic too. I'd just like to give her a look over personally. As her sensei, that is my right, right. Kabuto replied. Ibiki didn't look happy but tried to avoid downright glaring. Damn it, there's no way I can just make him leave without making him and the rest from him village suspicious. Once that happens, I won't be able to get anything done. Hearing no argument, Kabuto got next to his kunoichi student and looked her over, first without a jutsu then with the aid of diagnostic jutsu. Ah, as I expected, just a strong case of chakra loss. A trademark of the Aburame clan if I'm right. And how do you know that? Ibiki asked. Kabuto was anything but intimidated by the scarred man. The Aburames have been part of Konoha for a long time. You didn't honestly expect that no one from outside the village wouldn't at least be aware of their skills, did you? I mean, you must be somewhat aware of what a few clans outside Konoha can do, right? Sound logic. Ibiki thought, unable to find a hole in what Kabuto just said. But then he thought of a way to make the Oto Junin leave. Say, shouldn't you be with your other students for their matches soon? Kabuto took a seat on a chair in the room. Oh, I already gave them a pep talk. My fellow Junin asked me to come here for any other injured genin from our village to see if I treat them since I'm the only medic in our group. He saw the interrogator still looked displeased. There's no law against that, is there? He asked it more like he was joking. Oh no, Junin-sensei have every right to check up on their injured genin in preliminary fights. The medic answered. Ibiki mentally groaned. Thank you so much, you fool. Now he'll never leave and we've lost an opportunity to find any threat to us. Got any coffee? Kabuto asked. The fight between Hinata and Neji went on as strong as ever, neither side backing down. But onlookers started to notice something. Neji appeared to be sweating more and out of breath as he fought on. What's going on? How can she be wearing me out faster than I'm wearing her out? He asked him as he gained some distance in hopes of briefly regaining strength. Neji then bothered to notice the chakra at Hinata's fingers. He saw it was pointed, and that made him worry. The jukin of the Hyuga was designed so chakra tips on the fingers could strike the tenketsu of the victim and affect the flow and access of chakra they had along with muscular mobility. When the chakra points were blunted, they closed the tenketsu and numbed the muscles. When the chakra points were sharp, they opened the tenketsu and stimulated the muscles. Hinata didn't give Neji much of a chance to regain himself and continued her assault. Now Neji was on the defensive, something he hated doing because it made him feel weak. But he couldn't avoid it as he was feeling drained, was the only way he could describe it. I gotta finish this now. He told himself. 8 trigrams 64 palms. He shouted as he started a last-ditch effort to remove her ability to fight back. He struck fast enough that Hinata couldn't block all the hits. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. He said as he counted down the strikes and sent her skidding back and away from him. Neji-kun looks really worn out. Even more so than after a normal workout. I wonder what she did to him. Tenten thought as she looked over her panting, barely standing teammate. So what's the big surprise here? Zaku asked Naruto. Oh, you'll see. He responded. Hinata stood up and dusted herself off, much to Neji's shock. Wow, not bad. But you could do better. How the hell could she be so unaffected by that maneuver? It's impossible. Neji asked himself in shock and to a small degree horror. Using one arm, Hinata struck several points on herself. Neji's Byakugan saw she was reopening the tenketsu he had managed to close just seconds ago. She did look a little worn out too, but nowhere near as bad as he did. She then looked at him confidently and allowed herself to softly laugh at his expense. Smug bastard hasn't caught onto my fighting style yet. Good, cause that's how I'll beat him. He's under the presumption that since I have his family's eyes I'm supposed to fight like them and that's what he's prepared himself for. This guy's going down. Her interior tone of voice clearly indicated she was enjoying this. Nice trick. Here's one of my own. She told him as she came back up to him. He tried to get away but couldn't move fast enough. What really worried him was that he now struggled to keep his dujutsu active and body standing, and that was before the approaching attack. 5 trigrams 64 needles. She then striked him much like how he previously struck her. In fact, to the unaware observers, it was an identical attack. But this time Hinata didn't announce how many hits she was making. When she finished, Neji fell face first onto the stone floor of the arena. The rest of Team Guy looked at this with wide eyes, having never seen Neji go down so fast. Nor expecting it to happen due to an attack so much like his own. Who is she? Tenten asked herself in shock and awe. Neji's flames of youth have just been overpowered by her own. Maybe she could privilege me with a friendly spar sometime in the future. Lee commented with interest and curiosity. Someone from outside the village has a Byakugan and knows how to use it, albeit somewhat differently than Konoha's Hyuga can. Guy noted with complete seriousness. This could pose a major problem. And where there's one, there's bound to be more. See. Naruto asked Zaku. How did she do that? Can't say. You never know who's listening. The disguised Jinchuriki stated. Naruto of course knew the facts behind Hinata's fighting style. Years of practicing with her to use his own Neo Byakugan with only her mother to instruct them gave them a shared taijutsu. But it wasn't the Juken, no, this new style original to Oto was called the Tsurudokan, the sharp fist. While the Juken made regular use of blunt chakra tips on the fingers to close tenketsu points, the Tsurudokan made regular use of sharp chakra tips on the fingers to open the tenketsu instead. To a Hyuga, this approach sounded meaningless, but it did have its uses. Having the tenketsu forced open gave the victim an unexpected surge of chakra bursting from the body. This affected their chakra control and for all basic purposes made them bleed chakra, and the more tenketsu forced open, the more chakra they bled. Until they reached the point where their control was shot, and the added effect of using chakra for jutsus and movements while regularly bleeding some on the side forced them into a chakra depletion state, much like a large loss of blood would feel. This was what had happened to Neji. Hinata had forced open many of his tenketsu, but he paid it no mind because he had been expecting her to close them instead. When he closed her own, she easily reopened them to keep her access to her own chakra. He did not, and with the continued use of his Byakugan and Juken strikes along with the damage she had inflicted, Neji basically suffered much like he would have if Shino attacked him instead at a slow pace. This was also why Hinata was mostly unharmed by his 64 palm technique. He had less chakra than he thought and his control over it was unstable. He barely even created half the damage he tried to inflict on her. Neji tried to get back up, struggling to get on his hands and knees, all four limbs wobbling as he pushed himself up. Damn it, I feel like I'm almost out of chakra. What did she do? Hinata calmly walked towards behind Neji and swiftly kicked him in the crotch from behind, the position he was in making it quite convenient for her to do so. The Hyuga prodigy instantly screamed in a high pitch and fell back down on the floor, clutching himself when he landed. Kiba winced. Man, that girl just loves to do that. I pity whoever she takes as a lover. Hinata then came back to Neji's front and lifted his head up by grabbing his hair. So you think the gods like you more than others, do you? Check mythology bub, even demigods and heroes had enemies and bad luck. Winner. Cough, Hinata Hibiki. Hayate declared before she could do anything more. The aforementioned Kunoichi smiled and released her grip on Neji's hair. Medics quickly rushed in and put Neji on a stretcher as Hinata walked back to her team. Attagirl. Loved the finishing move. Enko complimented. Naruto resisted the urge to kiss her, aware she would already have enough eyes on her now. You were great, Hina-chan. Just don't use those feet on me someday please. Hinata chuckled. Of course not. There's no way I'm going to damage something I know I'm going to put to use later on. How much later on? Enko and Isaribi asked and leaned in a bit to hear better. Hinata didn't answer. Instead she just leaned on the railing next to Naruto and looked at the monitor to see the next name. Enko leaned in too. Alright, don't tell us. But be careful Hinata. Now that your eyes have been revealed, Konoha's going to be out for your blood. For this moment on you're not to be alone for even a second. I don't care if you have to share the shower with someone, you are not going to be left unprotected from now on. Sure sensei. Hinata replied with a grin. But that means you can't object to me showering with Naru-kun then. The mentioned young man struggled to avoid blushing. As your sensei, and as his older sister, I can. Enko claimed. Would you though? Hinata deviously asked, toying with the woman. You think you're ready for something like that? Enko asked. Oh, I know she is. Isaribi commented. Enko arched an eyebrow. Okay, what the heck does that mean? Shish. The next match is about to be announced. Hinata said, changing the subject. Meanwhile, Sarutobi took a much longer than normal inhale from his pipe. The Hyugas are not going to like hearing this. The Hyuga were downright paranoid when it came to keeping their bloodline under wraps. The caged bird seal was proof enough of that, and they had raised quite a commotion over the time Kumo attempted to steal one of their own but got both the kidnapper and the victim killed in the process. In fact, that same commotion was what made Neji into the man he was today. With Kumo unable to blame the death of their ninja on Konoha and thus unable to threaten them for compensation, and Konoha unable to prove that act had been a deliberate plan of the Raikage, who denied he had ordered any such act, the two villages were forced into a standstill. However, the problem didn't end there. The first heir to the main house of the Hyuga was dead, and within a week Hiyashi's wife and second child were listed as dead, confirmed by Tsunade, whom they had been taken to for medical treatment. Sarutobi tried to insist Hiyashi remarry and gain a new heir for the sake of the clan, but apparently having lost his wife and two daughters took a heavier toll on the Hyuga head than expected. Hiyashi was seen the next day hanging from a noose. With that, the Hyuga council chose his twin brother Hazashi to become the new clan head and removed the caged bird seal from his forehead. Neji had his own removed and he became heir to the main house. The young boy never forgot his time with the seal, and his father called this change and gained freedom a miracle, a blessing from the gods. Neji took that to heart in a wrong way and grew up with his assumed belief that in heaven's eyes he was more worthy of experiencing blessings than others were. I'll have to deal with this after the matches here end. But one thing's for sure, that girl's not going to leave anyone's sight in this village from now on. Sarutobi told himself, trying to plan how he could take her into custody legally. I sure hope the Hyugas don't say, damn the law, and take matters into their own hands over this. I'd rather not risk war with someone we know nothing about. Especially someone who can drag the cage into this. The monitor buzzed and the next matchup was revealed. Tamari Subaku vs Sakura Haruno. Down in the arena, Tamari and Sakura stood facing each other. Tamari still had her fan strapped on her back, but could remove it at any time. Sakura had no visible weapons, but her fists were untightly clenched. The Pinkett looked up and saw that Sasuke, now sporting a few bandages, had returned from his patch-up in time to see her match. She softly smiled, but it wasn't her usual mindless fangirl smile for the boy. Tamari was being a tad bit more professional right then. So far there's no info on this girl. No ninja background, no area of expertise, no defining fighting style. That makes her sound weak and an easy target, but then again she did get this far. She must have some trick she's kept hidden from our sources and has to display now. I wonder if Forehead really stands a chance here. Ino thought, feeling a little worried about her semi-friend. Without her blind crush on Sasuke now, the platinum blonde hoped to restart their old friendship. But with Sakura still showing some devotion to the Uchiha, she hesitated to do so. Sasuke himself just watched with disinterest. Kakashi pulled out his book and Kiba watched the two girls, but unlike the others he looked interested in this match. I sure hope this turns into a cat fight. Although something tells me that other girl is less likely to let that happen. Ready. Begin. Hayate announced. Sakura swiftly unleashed a dozen shuriken at once, her aim not good enough for all of them to actually hit Tamari. The Suna Kunoichi used a set of metal guards on her forearms to deflect the throwing stars that actually would have hit her otherwise. Sakura then performed the basic clone jutsu and ran at her foe in hopes of confusing her long enough to land a hit. Tamari almost felt insulted by this strategy. Moaning, she pulled out her fan, without opening it, and swung it at all three visible Sakuras like it was a bat. The clones vanished and the original skidded away towards the arm statue. Tamari then leaned against her fan and waited for her opponent to recover and retaliate, inspecting her nails as she waited. It's probably not a good idea to not take a fight seriously. Fu thought as she watched Tamari act like this. But from what I've seen from this pink-haired girl back in Wave, I'm not too worried. Sakura got back on her feet, wiped a little blood off the corner of her lip, and stared at her hand where the smear was. Look what you did, you thug. You didn't really expect to go through life as a kunoichi and not bleed, did you? Tamari asked. Heck, if I got a Rio for every time I bled during training or on the job, I'd probably be able to buy some replacement blood from the hospital. It was a bit on an exaggeration, but the point was valid nonetheless. Sakura pulled out a kunai but didn't throw it. Instead, she tried to rush at Tamari quicker, hoping she wouldn't defend herself as well this time. Tamari just struck her fist out preemptively and Sakura couldn't stop herself in time, so she ran right into the fist and basically gave herself a punch in the gut. After impact, Sakura fell to her knees and gasped to regain the wind knocked out of her. Tamari was starting to get upset over this display. Okay, either she's testing me out before she brings out the heavy hitter, or she got this far on luck and the effort of her teammates rather than actual skill. Is that the best you can do? She asked tauntingly in hopes that her opponent would start to give her a challenge. Sakura picked up the kunai she dropped after the impact and swung it to try and give Tamari a gash on her calves. She managed to cut the girl, but the mesh on Tamari's right leg weakened the damage for one wound. The Suna Kunoichi responded by kicking the pinkett away, not creating much distance this time. Before Sakura could get up, Tamari lifted her still closed fan and jabbed it on Sakura's back, pinning her down. Listen, Pinky, I'm getting bored. I was training back when you were learning to tie your own shoelaces. So either fight me seriously with all you've got, or do us both a favor and surrender. Sakura felt enraged by the twin comments that she was weak and should surrender this match. I will not surrender. I was the top kunoichi of my class. I got the best grades out of everyone. I can beat someone like you. Prove it. Tamari proclaimed with another application of force on the girl's spine. Sakura let out a pained hiss and struggled to get away. She only did because Tamari let her go in hopes of seeing her actually try something unexpected now. Sakura rolled away, back on her feet and rubbed her back. She looked bruised, worn out and out of breath, but still determined to continue. You've got spunk, I'll give you that. Tamari claimed. But I'm guessing you're a thinker, not a fighter. That won't do you much good here. A good ninja is both, not just one. This coming from someone who's been fighting dirty. Sakura venomously asked. You've gotta be kidding me. Tamari told herself. We're ninja for Kami's sake, girl. We don't fight fair. Do you think this is some mere schoolyard fight where the worst thing you can do is put bubblegum in someone's hair? Not that anyone would notice if I did that to you. She paused for a quick snicker then continued. Well, it isn't. Didn't you hear the old man or the chronic cougher? We're to go all out for these matches and treat them as life or death or else. Fairness has no place here. But do you have to be so rough? It's just a test after all. Sakura asked. Tamari groaned in utter annoyance. You're an embarrassment to your village, you know that. Something about that statement sparked a new rush of anger in Sakura. Hearing it made her remember a few times when she had been angry. Like when Amy and her friends had ganged up on her all the time just before she met Ino. Or when Sasuke told her she was annoying after their team had been announced. Not to mention the time when her aunt Natsumi told her to just forget Sasuke overnight after years of practically shoving praise for the boy down the pinkett's throat. All these times and more were instances when Sakura felt angry but suppressed it. She couldn't fight Ami's gang back for fear of losing, she couldn't allow herself to be mad at Sasuke even if he did offend her with his rude dismissals, and her sense of loyalty to her aunt made it hard for her to argue back. She ignored it all as best she could to prevent herself from ending up in an unfavorable situation, but Sakura still got mad at it all. Her best way to channel her aggression was in her tendencies to be loud and punch-happy when bothered. And right now, Tamari had triggered that very response. Shut up. Sakura screeched, making Tamari and several others cover their ears. I am a smart, capable woman. Who does not deserve to be trampled on like this. I deserve respect, love, and the best out of life, and I will get them, one way or the other. Then she charged forward to strike at the blonde kunoichi when her ears were still covered. Timri's hands may have been occupied, but her legs weren't, and she tried a swing kick with her left leg to block the pink banshee. Sakura stopped herself long enough to avoid the hit but continued after the leg passed. This time she managed to hit Tamari with a fist in the left eye, making the Suna nin tumble backwards. Ha! Take that bitch! Sakura shouted triumphantly. Tamari rubbed her injured eye. So that's your ninja strategy. A few basic moves until you get pissed, then beat the crap out of someone. Maybe you should have been a sumo wrestler instead. Sakura went into another blind rage and tried to overpower Tamari, but the blonde gave the pinkett an uppercut with her fan like she was swinging a golf club. Sakura took the full force of the hit and flew upwards and back a bit. She landed near the entrance of the room and almost passed out. Hayate waited a minute for Kakashi's kunoichi student to stand back up, but she remained motionless. Winner, Tamari Sabaku. The declared winner smiled with the praise she got from her teammates and friends. She turned to look at her downed opponent and came up to her. Listen, do yourself a favor and either get some serious training or stop being a shinobi altogether. As you are now, your skills are pathetic and no one would respect you. Sakura was practically foaming at the mouth over that bit of snide advice, but Tamari just turned away without a care. Unable to coherently form any words, she got up as best she could and pulled out a kunai with a tag on it. She didn't care if this would go against any rules, she was already taken out of the test and her pride meant more to her anyway. Sakura threw the tagged kunai at the Suna kunoichi's back. Hayate rushed to intercept, knowing this uncalled for attack could cause big problems between the two villages. However, Tamari turned around and swung her fan like a bat, sending the kunai to the ceiling. It embedded itself in the stone and the tag triggered, creating a flash of light and a surge of wind that would have knocked the girl off her feet had it actually hit her. Big mistake, girl. Hayate told the pinkett as sternly as his could with his available volume. The fights, over. Continuing it will result in a penalty for you. But she. This is not debatable. Now get some rest. Hokage-sama will decide what to, do with you later. Hayate told her. Medics came and took Sakura away while Tamari went back to her team with an unhappy look. What's wrong, sis? Kankuro asked. What do you think? I didn't even need to open my fan to beat her. This was such a letdown for me. Naruto came over to cheer her up. You did good, Mari-chan. He used that nickname for her a lot in their letters as penpals. Although it was barely a challenge. She nodded, smiling at him but still looking bothered by the lack of excitement she had been expecting. I really hope the third test is better than this. Even if I have to fight you, Naruto-kun. Don't go easy on me though. The other girls said that too. He replied. The monitor started buzzing and the next fight was announced. Naruto Urashi vs Yakumo Kurama. The disguised Jinchuriki was immediately crowded by his teammates. Give him hell, Naru-kun. But don't give away too much. Hinata told him with complete confidence he would win. Win this, Naruto-kun, and I promise another round of skinny dipping back home. Isaribi offered with a sexy smirk. Another round. Enko asked herself. You've got a lot to explain, both of you. I hope you get a better workout than I did. Tamari commented. Sasama, Fu, and Haku each gave him a supporting wink. Naruto went down to the arena and looked over his selected opponent. Yakumo Kurama turned out to be a young woman with long brown hair wearing a purple dress and a red mesh shirt underneath it and blue leg coverings showing on the visible parts of her calves. A yellow clip was seen in her hair at the left edge of her bangs and a cream-colored pouch of some kind was strapped on her back, much like Fu. The way she stood made her look as if she was ready but reluctant to be here. Hayate coughed 4 times before he could say anything. I need some water. Okay, ready. Begin. Neither genin made a move right away, at least to attack. Naruto took the standard stance of toad-style taijutsu while Yakumo looked defensive, as if expecting to be hit right away. She relaxed slightly when no such impact was felt, but her guard didn't drop. Naruto hesitated to fight only because he was still planning his own strategy here. Okay, apparently she's part of the Kurama clan. From what I remember, they're genjutsu experts with little skills elsewhere, with a kekkei genkei that few outside the clan even understand. I think I know how best to counter her, but I better do it carefully so Konoha doesn't get more curious than they already are. With a plan now made, Naruto pulled out a kunai with a paper bomb attached, lit it with his chakra, and threw it towards her. It landed in front of her but she managed to put enough distance between herself and the blast before it went off. As the smoke cleared, Yakumo reached into her pouch and pulled out something. Naruto was still covered from view by the smoke, but she could see his silhouette and saw he had another explosive kunai almost ready. I'm not dealing with those again. Illusion art. Great pain. Yakumo said nervously as she held up what she was holding. An 8x 11-inch painting of a right arm where all three bones in it were snapping like a twig. She channeled chakra into it and waited for her opponent to gaze upon it, which would trigger the result she needed to end this. The dust cleared and Naruto looked at her clearly. Yakumo smiled, thinking this would be over soon, but she still held a look of regret for doing this at all. Then Naruto threw the bombed kunai at her, hitting the painting and making her drop it. She got away in time again and looked at Naruto in fright. That fright only got worse when she saw he had used his uninjured right arm to throw the kunai in the first place. That can't be. You shouldn't be able to use that arm now, she stated with a hint of a whimper in her voice. Sorry Kurama-san, but I'm prepared for genjutsus. Naruto told her, his Neo Sharingan active but impossible for anyone to clearly see from their positions. All Yakumo herself could see was that his eyes were orange. Your clan may have the best genjutsus in the world, but I've got an immunity to anything meant to take over my mind. Up on the balcony, Yakumo's sensei Genma got curious and pale at hearing the disguised Jinchuriki say that. Immune to mental manipulation. Damn, Yakumo is completely overpowered here then. Her genjutsus may be the most effective in her clan, maybe even the whole village or world, but if they can't work on this guy for some reason then she's only got one way to win here. She won't like it, but it's her only option. Yakumo pulled out another small painting, this time one of both legs being broken like someone hit them in the knees and ankles with a sledgehammer. Illusion art. Great pain. She placed her chakra into the painting and waited to hear the screams that should have come from the young man. She heard nothing, and after opening her eyes which had fearfully clamped shut beforehand, saw no change in Naruto. This is impossible. No one can be immune to my genjutsus. You should be on the floor wailing in agony. Subsonic's warnings about this situation flashed through Naruto's mind briefly. The hidden agent made sure to warn him about all of the clan's techniques, as far as they knew of them. Konoha's last clan is the Kurama clan. They are considered the least important, to the point where several in the village don't even recognize them. However, they do have some good skills. They specialize in genjutsus and don't even need hand signs to use all of them. And they also possess a Kekkei Genkei, which is rumored to make it so their genjutsus can actually become reality to the person they affect. If you ever have to face one of them, Naruto-kun, you'd be better off using your Neo Sharingan to prevent them from targeting you effectively. Your Neo Byakugan might work, but considering the ability of your Neo Sharingan to break hypnosis and mind control, you'd be safer with that one in use. Once you make a Kurama's genjutsus useless, if you can, then they should be out of options. With that in mind, Naruto shrugged. Sorry to disappoint, but apparently I'm not. Your drawings are good, but I'm a ninja, not an art critic. Show me something useful. If she doesn't need hand signs, then she must use those paintings as a substitute to make me see the genjutsus she's casting on me. And if she does have a Kekkei Genkei like Subsonic said, then right now my limbs would actually be broken instead of just feeling like they were. That's a damn useful technique, but without it what else can she do? Yakumo backed up against the wall, her arms nervously yet protectively in front of her. She was breathing heavily and started to sweat in panic. My genjutsus really don't work on him. What do I do? What can I do? I'm not good enough yet to rely on Genma-sensei's defense methods. Her vision started to blur. I don't think I can win, but I don't. After that, Naruto saw and sensed a shift of sorts in his foe. Yakumo's posture went from, I'd rather be anywhere than here, to, you are going to die. And her sensible chakra aura seemed to feel darker in nature. Her face even looked a little sinister, much harsher than the timid mouse expression it had been, and the way it was angled made shadows ominously cover her eyes. Her mouth formed a grin much like Orochimaru did when he had a great plan. Yakumo threw the painting aside like it was trash and cracked her knuckles. You want to see something useful, you stuck-up son of a bitch. You've got it. Yep, it definitely happened. Genma told himself. This is going to be brutal. Yakumo moved her left sleeve to show a hidden Senbon launcher and fired a wave of several dozen needles right at Naruto. Thanks to his Neo Sharingan he was able to avoid them all in time by jumping to his right. And it was only thanks to those eyes that he saw her weapon contained a second wave that she quickly fired in his new direction while he dodged. Sadly there was little he could do in midair to defend himself except perform one technique he knew would just increase trouble later on. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He called out before he created 10 clones that took the hits for him, allowing him to land unharmed. How the hell can a genin from another village know one of our kinjutsus? Let alone use it? Sarutobi asked himself. This new village has a lot of explaining to do. With the smoke created from the shadow clones being killed, Yakumo couldn't take aim anymore. She decided to charge forward and snarl like a pissed off Sakura would and readied her right fist. She saw Naruto reach for something but her fist connected with his jaw before he could pull it out. Unfortunately for the painter, that was part of Naruto's plan. He expected a close-range strike with her inability to aim through the smoke and took the hit to trap her. Before she could withdraw her fist, he grabbed it with his left hand tightly, catching her off guard. His right hand then planted a movement suppression seal tag on her abdomen and then flipped her up and over him like a judoist. Yakumo landed on her back and found she couldn't move, only struggle. She glared and squirmed like a chained animal. Release me this instant, you piece of crap. These seals didn't usually suppress vocal movements so the sealer could still acquire information from the victim. Something's gotta be wrong with her. Naruto told himself as he looked at her while rubbing the sore spot she hit. You don't just go from afraid of your own shadow to foul-mouthed berserker in the blink of an eye. So either someone else is controlling her for this match or she's got a split personality. Only one way to find out for sure. With that, Naruto held her head to make her give him eye contact, his Neo Sharingan taking effect right away. Right away he noticed something wasn't quite right. While the Sharingan was designed to force a sort of mental lock on someone's behavior to a specific degree, the Neo Sharingan was designed to remove any such locks and free the trapped personality from the forced control. So if there was anything in Yakumo's mind that was unwelcome and affected her behavior, he would find it and destroy it. But to do that, he had to actually enter their mindscape for a moment, much like Tsukiyomi allowed, and overpower the representation of the outside influence. He theorized the Sharingan worked similarly to create some control over another, but he had no way of proving it. Once he was in Yakumo's mindscape, which was mostly a swirling mixture of dark blue, light blue, dark purple, and black in an empty void, he saw the girl chained face down to the mental floor crying and struggling to get free. That proves she's not in complete control of herself now, but if she's being controlled by a genjutsu or something, then she could be mobile but controlled like Kankuro's puppets. Not chained to the floor. A dark chakra aura stopped Naruto from investigating the matter, but it may have answered his unasked question. This chakra took on the form of some sort of dark-skinned Oni with Yakumo's hairstyle and similar but darker-colored clothes. The fangs of this Oni were easily bigger than Naruto's fingers and the horns spread out to the side of the head like a bull but less curved. Run. That thing will destroy you. Yakumo cried out from her chained-down position. Go ahead and leave. I'll just go back to fighting you physically like before. Makes no difference to me if I kill you here or there. The Oni told Naruto. So she's the real personality and you've somehow taken over for the time being. Naruto asked this mental monster. How? Oh, I'm real alright. The demon told him, brandishing its claws to appear more threatening, one of which pointed at the frightened Yakumo. I'm the other half of that feeble girl's mind, just as real as she is. Only difference is that I'm the side that actually wants to hurt and kill others, while that coward is the other aspect. Naruto didn't look like he accepted this explanation. That can't be the whole story. If that were true, then all of us shinobi would have split personalities like this. The Oni smiled, the fangs making it look all the more sinister. You're right, but why should I tell you when I can just kill your spirit then your body? The demon then thrust its claws at Naruto, who blocked both attacks with a pair of kunais. He tried to hold the demon back but he felt himself being slowly pushed back. This is not going to be easy. He told himself as he pushed back as hard as he could. Naruto knew he wouldn't be able to hold back this demon for much longer with just kunais. Sure, he could imagine himself with other weapons in this mental scope, but if he did that recklessly the Oni could learn to do the same. Also, he had to actually have the skills to use the weapon properly for it to be of any use even here. Having a sword wouldn't be any better if he didn't actually have the training to go with it. He did though thanks to Zabuza and Sasama, but the point still stood. The great thing about a mindscape was that the limitations to what could happen were limited only by the imagination. This is what made jutsus such as Tsukiyomi and several torture techniques the Yamanaka knew so dangerous, especially since the host was more prone to pain than the invader was. The downside was that no matter how powerful and creative the jutsu user was when they invaded the mindscape, the target always had a homefield advantage since it was their mind. Only the weak-willed, uncreative, or those caught off guard were forced into submission rather quickly. Someone of strong will or prepared for the jutsu would be able to fight back and resist to a point, a battle of creative wits being the deciding factor in who gets what they want. This is what Naruto was experiencing just now with Yakumo's inner demon. The Oni would be difficult to defeat, because of the homefield factor and the fact that this mental aspect surely looked like a monster for a reason. What that reason was, Naruto had no idea, but he'd have to be extra creative here. Fortunately for him, that wasn't a problem. Naruto put a lot of force into his arms and turned his kunais to give the Oni a few cuts on its fingers. The mental monster withdrew its hands for an instant and Naruto gained some distance to be on the safe side. He happened to stop by the chained-down Yakumo. Just what is this thing? It's a monster, she answered, sounding ashamed for reasons Naruto didn't understand. I can see that. Why is it here? He asked at the same time the Oni pounced at him. Naruto blocked it with his kunais again, but this time it wouldn't work for long. I told you. I am her. Or at least a part of her. The Oni told the disguised Jinchuriki before withdrawing its claws and striking again from a new angle. But this time it looked like it was trying to punch Naruto, not tear into him. The better part that is. Rather than block the punch, Naruto back-flipped away from it. You're still just a part though. He said, mostly to antagonize the beast and throw its game off. It appeared to work a little too well. The Oni glowed darkly as if it had a curse mark of its own, or Amaterasu flame self-formed on its skin. The dark flame-like aura burst off the Oni and moved towards Naruto like lightning would. Naruto may have found it fascinating if he wasn't on the intended receiving end of the attack. Crap, I don't think I can dodge it for long here. But maybe I can block it or overpower it. Naruto told himself before his Neo Sharingan eyes started spinning around. Time to fight fire with fire. Hell Amaterasu. A silver flame emerged out of nowhere and formed a wall in front of Naruto, preventing the Ona's flame from hitting him directly. Like with extreme Tsukiyomi, Naruto wouldn't be able to use Mangekyo-level jutsu, but since he was in a mindscape he wasn't as limited in power usage as long as he didn't cause damage to himself. So he could use his other Mangekyo Neo Sharingan technique, the Hell Amaterasu, here safely without Kyuubi's help. He was likely to suffer a bit when he left the mindscape, but he'd have to cross that bridge when he came to it. Like the extreme Tsukiyomi, Hell Amaterasu wasn't that different from the jutsu of its inspiration. It created a flame that lasted for days and couldn't be put out by water or anything short of the caster cancelling it out. The differences were that this flame was silver rather than black, lasted only 2 days rather than 7, and could be controlled in a way that was commonly known as fire bending. Unwilling to take the chance that the Ona's flame attack had ceased, Naruto kept his fiery wall up but willing 2 arms to form on its sides to branch out and strike back. Judging from the grunting sound the Oni made, this caught it by surprise. Unwilling to get burnt, it got away from the flame and had to stop its own attack. The silver flames didn't stop in return and engulfed it in a pyre-like manner. When Naruto felt the attack stop, he moved the silver flame to stick close to him in a spiral fashion, like a twister, so it would stay available for later on. I still can't figure out what this thing is or how it's connected to the chained-down girl. He told himself. If I could, then maybe I'd know how to handle this and win the match. He then ran up to the captured Yakumo, certain she could inform him a bit more. How do I get rid of this thing? He asked when he got close to her. You can't. It's been inside me for as long as I can remember. She sounded so hopeless. But you're the dominant personality, right? Not that creature. Naruto asked. You can fight back. Yakumo gazed at the boy in shock. You make it sound so easy. Every time that thing gets loose, I get trapped and shoved into a mental corner while it takes over my body and gets bloodthirsty. I can't fight back. Have you ever tried? Naruto asked, sounding angry to ensure she paid attention. I saw how you acted in our match. You were afraid to fight me and you were afraid to get hurt. Do you actually want that thing to stay so you can hide in your own mind when things get too scary for you? No, but I can't get rid of it. She tearfully countered. It's part of my psyche, a side effect of my Kekkei Genkai. It's the yin to my yang, the id to my ego, so you can't destroy it without destroying me. In the distance the monster got free of the flames and looked madder than ever. You are so fucking dead. It then ran up to Naruto with its head down like a charging bull. Some of the silver flames were still stuck to its skin and burning it. Naruto was able to get out of its way thanks to the shout warning him and the fact it momentarily couldn't see where it was going. The Oni soon realized it didn't connect with its target and stopped charging. It turned around, trying to swat away the Hell Amaterasu fire still, and flexed its claws in anticipation of shredding the boy to pieces. Naruto just got an idea, a risky one, but it would determine the possible weakness of his opponent. He reached down, held Yakumo's head up, and placed a kunai by her neck. You attack me one more time and she dies. His protective flames weren't touching her, but positioned so that at any second they could. Both Yakumo and her inner demon froze. No, please. You can't. Yakumo said in sheer fright, trying to squirm free. What's your game? The Oni asked, trying to sound more confused than wary. Naruto smirked. If the two of you are connected, then logically you can't live without her. You could not be more wrong. The Oni smugly stated. Naruto just shrugged. Fine. Let's see about that. He pulled back his hand with the kunai and got ready to jab it into her neck. Before he could, the Oni started to run towards him, and then he stopped and smirked again. Damn it, he tricked me. The Oni told itself, realizing he had done that just to made it confess it was dependent on Yakumo living. Sorry about that. I just needed you to actually be afraid for a moment. Naruto kindly whispered to the panicked Yakumo. But you shouldn't be afraid of that thing. It said it's a part of you, not you're a part of it. You ought to stand up to it and remind it who's really in charge here. With that, he placed his hands on her chains, made them glow orange, and tugged at them with intention to break, much like what he intended to do in the first place when he entered the artist's mind. You're not going to get away with this. The Oni proclaimed as it charged in to punch Naruto then rip his head off. Naruto sent out his protective flames forward to stop it in its tracks and make it have to find another way through. Damn it. I will not lose to you. Naruto pulled and pulled, the chains being stronger than he anticipated. This must not be a genjutsu on her, but a self-imposed mental restraint. He had to move the Hell Amaterasu flames to create a protective dome around himself and the chained-down girl. Tell me what that thing is so I can get rid of it and we can return to our match in the real world. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Yakumo told him, her fear of him slowly disappearing now that she saw he was trying to help her. In my clan, we have a Kekkei Genkai where we can make our genjutsus real to those we inflict on them, as long as they're physically possible. But it's a recessive bloodline so not everyone has it. It was my bad luck to be born with it functional. Like the Rinnegan or the Mokuton? Naruto asked, having heard both Kekkei Genkai were, at least originally, skills that mostly skilled generation and even when active only activated in specific people or circumstances. Yes, exactly. Yakumo continued. I can make my genjutsus reality for people, but I don't like the idea of hurting people like the Kekkei Genkai was intended for. I always wanted to be an artist instead, but I became a kunoichi for my clan's honor, thinking I could become a good one specializing in genjutsu so I wouldn't have to get blood on my hands. Noble ambition. Naruto complimented. He could hear the Oni beating on the flames around him trying to get in. At one point the left hand got through but pulled back just as quickly. Yakumo smiled at the compliment, but it didn't last when she said more. But something went wrong. In my training, the repressed part of me, the part that did want to hurt others, my id if you will, gained strength from my reality-altering ability and gained a life of its own. It's the curse of my clan, the one with the bloodline in time gains a vicious personality with it. Normally the Kurama would know how to suppress it but mine caught them off guard and She held back a sob. It killed them all by starting a fire. I'm the only one left, and I'm forever vulnerable to my dark side because of this village. Why? Naruto asked. My uncle survived and insisted on sealing away for lack of a better term, my demon for safety reasons. But without another genjutsu expert in the village to verify his work, the council refused to trust his effectiveness. I know that feeling. The disguised Jinchuriki stately offhandedly, only to catch himself too late. This time both of the Ona's hands briefly got through the flame barrier. I gotta hurry. The Kurama heiress paid it no mind for now. Anyways, it was ultimately decided that since they couldn't guarantee my demon wouldn't attack again, the Hokage used some people from outside my clan to make use of it as they saw fit. They placed a suppression seal on me that would keep it dormant but able to awaken in the presence of danger and my fear. And it won't be suppressed again until the danger passes or it tries to kill someone from the village. Sort of like a self-defense split personality. So if you really want to help me, leave here and go finish the fight until one of those things happen. Naruto didn't move away, only continued to try and break the chains. And leave you here so you can keep suffering the next time you get scared. I saw you in our fight. You were worried too easily because you chose to be dependent on one skill. That was your big mistake. Maybe if you had balanced yourself out or learned to cope with hurting others when the situation needed it, you could have suppressed it yourself. Yakumo suppressed the need to cry her eyes out, but a few tears did escape. You're right. Hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? But what do I do now? Fight back. Stand up to the demon by being willing to handle your own problems. Prove that you're the one in charge here, not it. And if you don't mind, help me send it back to wherever it goes when it isn't controlling your body. Yakumo stared up at him in awe of his courageous words and willingness to help her, despite the fact he didn't even know her. She couldn't imagine anyone doing that, not for her. The Kurama were barely acknowledged or respected, not even having a seat on the shinobi council due to the recessive nature of their Kekkei Genkai. Most Kurama had the same skills as other shinobi but with a better affinity to genjutsu, even if they lacked the Kekkei Genkai Yakumo had. Heck, she was the last of her clan and the only one among them with the power they were built around, and she still got no acknowledgement for herself. The Oni charged in through the flames successfully this time, looking like some beast that just got out of hell and had yet to cool off. Naruto pulled his flames back in hopes of a single crushing blow, but the Oni grabbed his neck with its left hand and lifted him into the air. Naruto found it hard to breathe and the silver flames fell to the floor, still burning but unresponsive to his commands. I'm going to disembowel you slowly right here, you dick. The Oni stated in pure fury. Then I'm going to do the same to your actual body and dance in your blood. It used its right hand to punch him hard in the stomach, making him even more breathless. I'm going to turn your organs into dog food, your bones to splinters, and your worthless brains into putty. Maybe I'll even tear your skin off into little strips and use them to wipe my ass. What do you have to say about that? Naruto used his left hand to drive a kunai into the Ona's right eye, making it howl in agony and release him. He regained his breath before answering. I'd say you should just kill the guy instead of bragging about it first. And you have a pretty grotesque imagination even for a monster. The Oni pulled out the kunai. You're right, no more talking, just killing. It took a few steps forward, but the sound of snapping metal caught both of their attentions. Behind the Oni, Yakumo stood up and threw off the chains she managed to break free from, holding one of them like a whip. This time she didn't look cowardly, but rather determined to stand her ground. If he can stand up to you, then there's no reason I shouldn't. She twirled her chain around and it started to glow as if superheated, except where she held onto it. This is my mind. You will listen to me from now on. What the hell? The Oni asked in complete surprise. Yakumo swung her chain and it wrapped around the mental monster, pinning its arms at its side. The chain started to burn it much like the hell Amaterasu had, but this time it seemed to char the flesh under the skin too. It felt much worse. And to make it even worse, Naruto firebended the silver flames to add damage to Yakumo's attack. Stop this! The Oni screamed in horrible torment. Yakumo's eyes glowed and a seal appeared on the ground where the demon stood and struggled. From that seal, even more chains emerged and tied down the monster. Then some metal poles burst out of the creature's feet like it had stepped on some large nails. The chains pulled the Oni down on its hands and knees, and 2 more metal spikes pinned its claws down. Yakumo released her burning chain, her eyes still glowing, and the Oni started to sink into the ground. Go where you can do no more harm, you beast. And stay there. My mind, my body, my life, is now off limits. You're nothing without me and you know it. I will get free someday. You don't have the POW, the Oni tried to claim, but it was swallowed up before it could finish. The glow on the ground and Yakumo's eyes faded, but the seal where the Oni had stood remained. Yakumo exhaled deeply in relief and collapsed to her knees. Is it really? Did I just do that? Yeah, you did. And I'm pretty impressed. Naruto told her as he cancelled out his Hell Amaterasu, making the flames disappear completely. Yakumo smiled at him and shedded a tear, this time out of happiness. Thank you so much. I could never have done that without you. No sweat. Now, what do you say we go back and finish our fight in the real world? He friendly offered. She nodded. Yes, let's. As expected, in the real world only 4 seconds passed with neither Yakumo or Naruto moving or saying anything. Before anyone could ask what was going on, they both jerked back as they rejoined reality. Naruto backed away and Yakumo got back on her feet. Naruto got back into a fighting style and awaited his opponent to ready herself. After what he had just seen, he felt she deserved a chance to show off how good she really could be here. Proctor, I forfeit. The artist told Hayate. Hayate looked surprised, as did Naruto and several others. Another one forfeiting. May I ask why? Cough. This is one opponent I would rather not fight. I'm positive my skills aren't enough to have me win here and I'm willing to admit I'm outclassed. Better I escape and live to fight another time than risk too much harm to myself because I'd be afraid to look like a coward if I didn't. Isn't that how it should work in ninja fights? She explained. Hayate smiled. That's acceptable. Many ninja, became martyrs because they thought running away from a, hopeless fight was a sign of weakness rather than intelligence. It's better to flee so you can, train to be stronger next time than to risk death over something like, a reputation. So winner by forfeit, Naruto Arashi. I get the feeling he was telling that to everyone, not just her. Kakashi told himself. I hope my students understood that. Naruto held out his hand for a sign of good sportsmanship. If it's any consolation, you were pretty impressive back there. He was surprised when she chose to hug him rather than shake his hand. Thanks. I owe you big. Let me know what I can do before you leave. She whispered, making him blush a little. Meanwhile, Hinata was seeing red. Oh hell no. No Konoha skank is getting my man. Yakumo went back up to her team since she wasn't hurt enough to go to the infirmary, but not before giving Naruto a parting wink and smile. Naruto had been around enough girls to know what that meant, and wisely didn't respond in an encouraging way. All he did was smile and wave. Then again, that might have been encouraging enough for her. Naruto went up to his teammates. As he expected, Hinata gave him a frown, but not an accusing one. Nothing happened, Hina-chan. Don't you trust me? He turned off his Neo Sharingan, and felt his eyes sting a small bit and his vision go blurry. He expected this from using the Hell Amaterasu, although it would have been worse had he used it outside Yakumo's mindscape. Yeah, I trust you, Naru-kun. But not her. She told him. Isaribi shrugged it off. Don't be so quick about that. We do need a 9th girl after all. Hinata turned her frown towards her purple-haired teammate. I'd rather it be Hanabi in that case. Rule number 1 of our little group. No Konoha girls allowed. You know, you were born in, Isaribi started to comment until Hinata sharply cut her off. If you want to stay in the group you won't ever finish that statement. Settle down you two. Don't draw attention. Enko told them with much authority, silencing them both. Meanwhile, Yakumo was greeted by her own team. Yakumo, I didn't expect you to just give up like that. May I ask why? Genma, her team's sensei, asked professionally without judgment. It felt like the right thing to do under the circumstances. She told him. I see he appeared to have calmed you down right away. Shino stated with some suspicion in his stoic tone. He usually had to subdue Yakumo when her inner demon got out in uncalled for times. Yeah. In fact, I doubt I'll ever need calm down again. The artist said with a smile. This only made Genma more concerned. He didn't hurt you, did he? Yakumo shook her head. Nope. He freed me instead. So you can still use your skills. Yakumo's remaining teammate, a pale boy named Sai, asked. She never really liked him, especially with his curiosity about her talents. Both Kekkei Genkei and artistic, and he didn't seem interested in the first in a comfortable way. Sure, she admitted he was a good drawer, but that was it. Yeah, but for now, no more mood swings hopefully. Like my uncle intended before those idiots butted their noses in where it didn't belong. Genma blinked in surprise and even Shino and Sai looked like they had been lightly blindsided. Are you sure you're alright? Yakumo thought it over. Yeah, I'm fine. I guess my mind is a bit more stable now that I'm no longer only half of myself at a time. It feels good. The monitor buzzed and the next two names were displayed. Kiba Inuzuka vs Sasama Fuma. Hell yeah. Now it's time for the best to shine. Kiba shouted confidently before he jumped over the railing and into the arena. Anything I should know about this guy? Sasama asked, recognizing the dog Nin from Wave but never having any interaction with him. Kick his groin and it's all over. Hinata offered, sounding a bit amused. Sasama nodded and headed down, thinking over what she had heard about the Inuzuka clan. Okay, according to Kurenai-sensei, this clan produces ninja that partner themselves with dogs and have their moves work in conjunction with them. Also, they themselves have heightened senses of smell and hearing and tend to move like animals, specifically dogs. In that case, I think I know what to do. Slow him down or attack from a distance. She then winced a bit. Damn cramps. Meanwhile, Kakashi was sizing up his student's opponent. So, a member of the Fuma clan, huh? From what I hear, they're native to Land of Rice. Is that where this new sound village resides? I better tell Hokage-sama this so we'll know where to look for whoever destroyed the Sharingan in me and Sasuke. Kiba's thoughts were a bit more simplistic, but not downright simple-minded. Okay, I got a kunoichi like that jerk Sasuke hoped I'd get. At least I'm more likely to win with my skills still intact. But if she's anything like the other girl with that symbol, then I'm glad I wore a cup this time. His nose then caught a peculiar scent. Blood. She's bleeding. Oh, it must be that time for her. Remembering what he knew from sparring with his own sister and mother, and at least once his teammate Sakura, Kiba knew that kunoichi on this particular part of their cycle were like a double-edged sword. The hormones added to their aggressiveness and strength in their hits, especially when the target was a male. The downside, they themselves often lost a little of their focus when aggravated and they would feel some discomfort in their abdominal area which would affect their movements. Kunoichi had a standard relief jutsu to minimize the discomfort a bit so they could still be effective, but it usually only lasted a few hours at most. The brief look of pain Kiba saw on Sasama told him she had cast it on herself already but it was losing effectiveness by now. Ready? Hayate asked, and got no objection. Begin. Sasama pulled out 4 smaller than normal kunais and threw all of them at Kiba. He ran towards her at the same time but with his body hunched forward so 2 kunais easily missed him while 2 each hit a shoulder. He ignored the pain and made a hand sign. Beast mimicry. With that, his body looked a bit more feral and moving on all 4s was easier for him without losing any speed. Earth style. Headhunter jutsu. Sasama said after 2 hand signs and placing her palms on the floor. A pit opened up right where Kiba was about to be to trap him in the ground, but he jumped over it and avoided capture. The pit closed and Sasama pulled out a wakizashi when Kiba got close enough to attack. Rather than face her head-on with such a weapon, he and Akamaru leapt over her and used the wall behind her to rebound off of and try to attack from behind. He's too fast to catch with most earth jutsus. Kurenai told herself. She'll have to start out defensively for that to work. Sasama made the ox sign and literally sank into the ground, causing the Inuzuka to miss her unexpectedly. Akamaru sniffed where Sasama had last stood and listened to the subtle sounds of the ground shifting underfoot, indicating Sasama was moving to another spot. He barked to let his partner know this, lest Kiba search only with his eyes. Kiba got the message, and used some chakra to cling to the walls to avoid any direct surprise attacks when the orange-haired kunoichi emerged. While he waited he pulled out the 2 kunai stuck in his shoulders and dropped them. Sasama called out a jutsu from underground, and while Kiba's better-than-average hearing couldn't make it out, he was aware she said something. From 8 meters away from him and 3 meters away from the wall, some sharp points stuck out of the floor then shot out in all directions around them like kunais. Kiba had to jump to avoid the ones headed right for him, but with multiple sharp stone projectiles flying around he couldn't avoid them all. Akamaru's smaller size allowed him to get away with only some missing fur at worst. Sasama came out of the ground with her wakizashi out. She rushed at him looking like she wanted to stab him with it. Unfortunately for her, Inuzukas knew how to handle weapon users. Piercing fang. He stated before leaping towards her and spinning around quickly, creating a cyclone around himself. Sasama skidded to her right to avoid being hit in the gut and saw the puppy Kiba was partnered with. Kiba could feel he missed his target when he felt himself connect with a wall rather than a girl, so he turned around after impact without stopping the attack. But he did have to stop when he heard Akamaru bark in distress. When he stopped, he saw Sasama holding Akamaru hostile, holding him up by his forelegs as he struggled to get loose. Big mistake, bitch. Kiba growled, his hand hovering over his supply pouch. In truth, that wasn't complete banter. For all basic purposes, Kiba was the strongest member of his team if you didn't count Kakashi. He had a set training routine he kept to, one that actually tested his limits and gave him room to improve, and he did it regularly. He motivated himself rather than wait for someone else to tell him to do it, and he wasn't afraid to ask for help when learning something new or trying something on the job. Not only that, he enjoyed doing things in training the hard way, as it challenged him more and felt more effective, rather than assuming results would come quickly and or on a silver platter. So in a manner of speaking, Kiba's self-image as deserving alpha of the pack wasn't entirely without reason. The problem was that self-image was his big weakness. He expected others to agree and go along with it, particularly women. Now Kiba didn't disrespect women. Having a mother and sister who could kick his ass without breaking a sweat showed him females weren't supposed to be by nature his subordinates. But the fact that they did it so easily made him crave respect from women more than anyone else. And since Inuzuka women had a tendency to like macho men, the kind that could prove to be better providers than the women could alone, Kiba habitually tried to enforce a macho status on himself, following his father's lead as an example for such. The way he figured it, if his father Gao Inuzuka was able to get his mother Sum by such means, surely it would work if he did the same. If you don't want your little dog to be neutered, I suggest you surrender right now. Sasama told him. Despite the fact she was holding Akamaru with both hands, one of them also held her wakizashi so she could quickly make good on her threat if she had to. Nice way to intimidate him. Kurenai said quietly. Using the dog as a hostage will give her a lot of leeway here. What if it just makes him mad? Fu asked. Oh, it will, but he can't afford to put his partner at risk. The genjutsu expert replied. Kiba's hand went into his supply pouch when she said that and pulled out a soldier pill. He flicked it with his thumb like he was flipping a coin, and the pill shot right into Akamaru's mouth before Sasama saw it move. After swallowing, the ninja dog growled and his fur got red and almost quill-like. Sasama didn't drop him, but holding onto him started proving harder. But when Kiba performed another piercing fang, Sasama had no choice to let the puppy go free so she could dodge unhindered. Also, she honestly didn't want to risk actually endangering the dog. Kiba stopped when he got right by Akamaru, glad his opponent reacted in the way he hoped she would. With Akamaru free, he jumped onto Kiba's back. Advanced Beast Mimicry. Man-Beast Clone. Kiba declared while Akamaru transformed into a duplicate of Kiba. So now I'm not supposed to tell which is which, and that'll prevent me from fighting either effectively. Sasama asked herself. Too bad for him that thanks to Naruto-kun I've got experience fighting clones. Sasama made the ox sign again and sank back into the ground. Nice try. Tunneling Fang. Kiba said as he and Akamaru did the Inuzuka drill attack that was designed to dig through solid objects like rocks and walls in case they were ever trapped. With it, the two went underground. When they came back up, Sasama was sent flying into the air and hit the ceiling hard. The two Kibas landed safely and kept some distance, waiting to see Sasama's reaction before potentially wasting chakra. The orange-haired Kunoichi struggled to get back on her feet, her bones aching. Damn, that guy hits harder than I thought. And he's too quick and agile for my methods to be fully effective. And now I'm even slower, giving him a big advantage to beat me before I recover. There's only one thing I can do. With that, Sasama let herself collapse and played dead. Winner, Kiba Inuzuka. Hayate announced. Yes. Take that Sasuke Tem. Kiba shouted triumphantly while Akamaru returned to normal in shape and color. I'm glad at least one of my students won. Kakashi thought while trying to divide his attention between the matches and his Ika. She did her best. That's all I ever asked for. Kurenai said with a small amount of pride for her student. Medics came and took Sasama away. Hayate addressed everyone still present. We'll take a pause to allow the floor to be fixed. So no one, go anywhere. Sarutobi was about to empty his pipe of ashes when Kakashi approached him from behind. Kakashi. What brings you here? Hokage-sama, I've got an idea I think may be of interest to you. The old man arched an eyebrow and put his pipe down. Go on. In case you're not aware, the Fuma clan is known to be native to Land of Rice. So if this new village, Oto was it? Kakashi asked, and the Hokage nodded. So if Oto has a Fuma has a member of its ranks, then it's likely that's the country it's located in. Sarutobi made a hum of intrigue. Before the exams had started he informed all his Junin of the new village he had been told of by the Kazekage and Kakashi told everyone of the music note symbol the group he encountered in Wave Bore. Once these ninja got to Konoha, it was easy to confirm that the music note was the symbol of Otogakur. But sadly they had no leads as to where the village was located. You make a good point Kakashi. Sarutobi stated. We must keep this in mind. However, under the circumstances, I fear we can't pursue this lead until after the exams finish. Why? Kakashi asked, not liking the idea. If we can find this village then we can find out how they negated the Sharingan and maybe get it working again. While Kakashi liked having his depth perception back now that he no longer had to cover one eye all the time, he still hated how Obito's memento was basically destroyed. I'm well aware of that. The Hokage told the perpetually late Junin. But we still don't know exactly where this new village is or what to look for. I mean, how do you find a village hidden in sound? Sending shinobi to find it would more than likely alert the native shinobi to our presence and only put them in harm's way. So the wise thing to do is wait for these genin to return home and have our guys follow them. Kakashi didn't like it, but saw the wisdom in such a move. Understood Hokage-sama. On another note, how do you intend to approach them on their inclusion of a Byakugan wielder? Sarutobi smiled in a devious way as he went back to cleaning his pipe. Leave that to me. After some Konoha Junin used some earth jutsus to repair the arena floor, the preliminaries were back underway. The monitor flashed the names of the next contestants. Kankuro Sabaku vs. Rock Lee. Yosh. It's my time to shine. Lee shouted out with his fist in the air. But this shout sounded more optimistic than arrogant. That's the guy. Kankuro asked himself. Best be cautious just in case. The two went down to the arena and sized each other up. Neither was really certain of what to expect of the other, although Lee was certain Kankuro's bundle on his back had to serve some purpose here. Ready. Begin. Hayate announced. Lee eagerly ran forward, moving faster than Kankuro expected or could counter against. Lee started with a dynamic entry kick to Kankuro's upper body, not bothering to say its name since he wasn't actually making an entry. The Suna Nin went flying towards the wall, everyone hearing a deafening crunch sound when the green-clad Konoha genin made contact. Wow. It sounds like Lee shattered that guy's skeleton. Tenten said. Lee stopped to see if his foe could even stand now. I hope it's not over too soon. I enjoy a long workout over a brief one. Not that I want to torment the guy needlessly though. Kankuro haphazardly got back on his feet, his movements making him look like a scarecrow brought to life. Cracking sounds could be heard as he moved. Are his bones broken? How is he moving? Was the general thought of those unaware of his skills. But all normal analytical thought ceased when Kankuro showed his face. His wooden grinning face with some of it covered by some sort of synthetic skin mask. A puppet user. I expected to see one from Suna here. Guy told himself. The wrapped-up bundle started to unravel and the real Kankuro emerged from it. You've got a pretty mean punch there man. I knew it was a good idea to trade places with my Karasu beforehand. Lee smiled. Thanks for the compliment. I gotta say you sure surprised me there. This should prove to be a nice challenge for us. He then tried some standard moves from his hard fist taijutsu to test Kankuro's reactions. The puppeteer waved his hands and the puppet moved to take the hit, then basically hugged Lee to hold him still. Before the green-clad genin could free himself, several needles burst from Karasu's arms and injected him with venom. It wasn't lethal. Kankuro preferred to save that for the invasion, but for now this would do. And if that wasn't bad enough, Karasu then body-slammed Lee into the wall behind him, but not with enough force to damage the humanoid puppet. Guy-sensei, what is that? Tenten asked, always eager to hear about new weapons. It's one of Suna's trademarks. Guy told his kunoichi student. Suna is well known for 3 skills they excel in, their use of wind jutsu, botanical toxins, and of course puppetry jutsu. Puppetry jutsu basically gives the wielder a stand-in for the actual fighting, allowing them to fight at any range without actually putting themselves in harm's way. The beauty of it is that the puppets can come in virtually any form and be equipped with virtually anything, and a powerful puppeteer could even manipulate more than one with experience and focus. The downside is that the puppets in general are slow and breakable, and give the puppeteer little ability to use anything along with them, as they basically make the wielder's hands full. So Lee should be fine since he can move fast enough. Tenten asked, faithful in her enthusiastic teammate but also curious about anything else her sensei could tell her. In theory, yes. Guy answered, making the weapon's mistress flop sweat in worry. He did get caught just now, so we need to see what the puppet actually does before assuming Lee has the upper hand. Lee didn't look physically affected, so he continued the fight like nothing had happened. Kankuro moved his puppet, waiting for the potion he injected into Lee to take effect. It wasn't lethal, but rather it temporarily thickened the blood a little, making the heart struggle to pump it as effectively for approximately 17 minutes. Movements would slow, breathing would become labored, and increased physical stress could cause severe circulatory problems and organ malfunction in some cases. So if Lee knew what was good for him, he'd stopped when it hurt to keep going. Too bad Kankuro didn't know that this Konoha genin just loved to test his limits. Lee ran right past Karasu and up to the one pulling the chakra strings. He unwrapped his bandages and used them to tie up the Suna genin, who couldn't react fast enough to get away. Primary Lotus. Lee announced. Kankuro was turned into a duplicate of the disguise he wore when this match started, and Lee threw him up into the air before jumping up and kicking him down. Secondary Lotus. At the same time Kankuro tried to get Karasu to fire some more Senbon from its mouth, these ones tipped with nothing to prevent a dangerous mixture of toxins. Lee took a hit in his left calf, but his training weights ended up blocking them from actual penetration. Kankuro took a pretty hard crash landing and the bandages were removed. He knew he could easily keep going, but for the brief moment before Lee continued his assault, he thought it over. This guy is good and he hasn't even used any jutsu yet. If I keep going, Karasu may get broken too much for me to repair before the final round, and I would have to reveal all my best maneuvers to win here. If I do that, then I won't have any surprises later on when we need it. The wise thing to do is pull out now, cut my losses, and save my strength for later on. Lee was more than ready to continue, but Kankuro raised his hand up in surrender. Proctor, I give. Really? Hayate asked, holding his hand up to tell Lee to halt. Not receiving an answer from the Suna genin, the coughing Junin shrugged. Alright, winner by cough, forfeit, Rock Lee. Yosh. I did it, Guy-sensei. Lee shouted triumphantly, adding a thumbs up and shining grin to his instructor. Way to go, Lee. Guy proudly shouted back in an identical manner. Lee then quickly joined him up on the balcony and the two created their abominable sunset jutsu, with only Tenten knowing ahead of time to shield her eyes. The Suna and Oto ninjas of all ranks, and even most of the Konoha ninja too, all watched this in horror and revulsion. Dear Kami. Even I think that's one genjutsu the world's better off without. Kurenai claimed. Can I go back to never sleeping again so I can't have that for a nightmare? Gaara asked. I think I'm actually getting sicker. Hayate told himself. Kankuro was offered to be taken to the infirmary but he declined. I'm fine, just sore. I just need to relax for a moment. He picked up Karasu and went back up to his team. At the same time, Lee started feeling lightheaded and out of breath. All you alright, Lee? Guy asked, ending their unintentional horror show. I'm fine, sensei. Just a little worn out more than I expected. But I will not let that bother me. The green-clad genin said, looking a little pale. Maybe you should relax just a bit, Lee, in case that puppet got you with something. Tenten suggested. I agree. Take a small break and sit down, Lee. Guy told his star pupil, who instantly obeyed. The monitor buzzed and declared the next round. Shikamaru Nara vs Zaku Abumi. Shikamaru sighed in frustration when he saw his name come up. What a drag. And I was hoping to rest some more. Shika, you could sleep for 24 hours and still say it's not enough. Ino drollily stated. Your point being? The Nara asked as if she wasn't wrong. Just get down there. The platinum blonde ordered. Shikamaru sighed and started walking down to the arena at a patient pace. What a drag. Nonetheless, Shikamaru, give it your all. Asuma told his student. Or I'll tell your mother otherwise. On the other side of the room, his opponent was already ready and waiting, feeling rather impatient rather than hesitant. This should be good. Looks like I've got an easy win. On the inside, he sounded less boastful. I make this and become Chunin, I can prove I'm a worthy addition to Oto. The young boy was brought to the hidden village during the trek. The refugees from Kiri made their way to it as well. Orochimaru went to a village near where the group made camp one night and saw the orphan shivering in an alley, felt sympathy, and offered to take the boy along. He readily accepted and since then aspired to show he had been worthy of the kind gesture. Dosu looked at his teammate sympathetically. I sure hope he wins, for his sake if nothing else. What do you mean? Haku asked, having overheard the comment. Oh, nothing. It's just that Zaku's a tad bit competitive in spars. He likes to win and gets downright mopey when he loses. Personally, I think he's got a bit of an inferiority complex because he takes it so hard. Inferiority complex, huh? Haku commented. He sure hides it well. Zaku cracked his knuckles and stretched his arms at the same time. Shikamaru actually got where he was supposed to be. The Nara heir looked bored and inconvenienced, but he made sure to carefully look over his opponent. Okay. Nothing particularly notable about this guy. No visible weapons, no unusual physical traits, and no signs of intense physical training. For all basic purposes, he looks like a normal genin, but he has secrecy as his advantage since I don't know what he can do. And from seeing others from his village fight earlier, I can't make an accurate guess as to what exactly to expect. He looks like an easy win. Hell, he looks like he doesn't even want to win. Zaku told himself. Ready. Begin. Hayate called out. Zaku quickly stuck his hands out in front of him, palms facing his opponent. Wind palm. All of a sudden 2 bursts of condensed air rushed forward and knocked Shikamaru off his feet. It felt like he had just been punched by 2 giant fists. Wind jutsus without hand signs? He asked himself. Decapitating airwaves. Zaku added, and Shikamaru wisely decided to get out of the way before 2 slash marks appeared in the wall behind where he had stood just before the attack was called. Zaku then simply re-aimed his palms towards Shikamaru again. Decapitating airwaves. The young Nara dodged again and saw 1 slash mark carved into the floor where he had been standing and 1 in the wall behind him again. Okay, the difference in location confirms he can make 2 different attacks simultaneously and aim them separately or together. Considering the angle his hands had just been a moment ago, I'm guessing that determines the aim for both strikes. In that case, I think I know what to do. The problem will be finding a moment when he can't attack. Zaku stopped his attack and flexed his arms. Still working good. This was so worth it. 2 years ago, back before he even made Genin, Zaku had volunteered to be a guinea pig for a new ninja weapon. The weapon was designed to allow wind and sound manipulation all without hand signs by using a chakra-powered vacuum mechanism. The catch was that in order for it to work as intended, the device had to be stored in the forearms with narrow tubes connected to the palms to allow air to enter and exit, and small vents by the elbows to eliminate excess air pressure. Chakra flow in the arms would draw air and then force it out with a lot of force, creating forceful or cutting wind attacks and even sonic blasts. However, this of course came with a drawback, as pointed out by Tsunade. The surgery needed to install such a mechanism could damage the tissue in the arm, and if it wasn't placed in just the right place right by the chakra network, which only a Byakugan user could determine for maximum success, it couldn't likely work effectively anyway. Not only that, if it did work, the presence of this tool would limit and hinder the overall flexibility and speed of the arms, giving them a disadvantage at learning other techniques. Zaku had been warned, but his desire to prove himself overpowered his desire to stay safe and he took the operation anyway. To this day he had yet to regret it. Once his internal tool, which had yet to be officially named for some reason, had finished reloading, he looked at his foe cockily. You might as well give up or let me kill you, dude. There's no way you're any match for me. Please don't brag about yourself, Zaku. Dosu said to himself, thinking actually telling his teammate that would count as interference with the match. You can't beat my methods. Zaku said, showing his hands proudly. I can create almost any wind and sound attack I want without hand signs, and attack in 2 separate directions and from any range. Face it, as long as I have chakra in my arms, you won't be able to so much as scratch me, Leaf Nin. Shikamaru just smiled. In that case, I guess the trap I set up behind you won't work. What trap? Zaku reflexively turned around to see whatever Shikamaru had indicated. He saw nothing despite the intensive lookover and turned back around, but the instant he did, he felt something grab hold of him and his body became rigid. What the hell? Shikamaru stood right where he had been with his hands forming the rat sign and his shadow stretched out unnaturally connecting the two. Shadow Possession Jutsu, successful link. For now, I control your every move. Zaku's eyes widened. Damn it. He tricked me so he could buy time to do this one move. I can't believe I fell for that. Shikamaru moved his arms to press his palms together as if praying, and Zaku was forced to mimic this action. The Oto Nin struggled to break free but couldn't. You must mimic all my moves, and if I channel chakra through my arms, you will too, and I'm guessing that's not a good idea for you right now. Zaku looked horrified. No, please don't. You'll destroy my arms beyond repair. The Nara didn't look sympathetic. Maybe next time you'll think before announcing your secret weapon. You can either withdraw, or lose your precious arms. Your choice, and choose quickly or I will. He added that part to avoid using too much chakra to maintain the shadow link and risk having to end it. That would end any advantage he had here. The Oto Genin didn't need to think about his options long. Alright, I forfeit. Hayate raised his hand. In that case, winner by forfeit, Shikamaru Nara. The pineapple-haired teen released his jutsu and Zaku regained control of his movements. Oh, I'm going to be hearing about this for a long time. The Oto Genin told him with regret as he went back up to his comrades. You put up a good fight, man. Naruto told him to boost his spirits. Until the end. He bitterly commented. Dosu came up to his teammate. Zaku, I can pretty much guess what's going through your mind right now. So all I'll say is it could have been worse. Zaku showed no signs of relief though. On the other side of the room, Shikamaru was greeted by his proud team. Good way to defeat your enemy without wasting much energy. Asuma stated. It's a good thing he was pretty stupid too. Ino added. Shikamaru didn't comment. Instead he sat down against the wall. Alright if I get some rest. Asuma nodded. I suppose so, but I'm waking you up when it's Ino's and Choji's turns. The monitor then declared the next contestants. Hiku Momochi vs Sai. I wonder if I can win this one without revealing my bloodline. I know I can't keep it hidden forever, but maybe I can delay the inevitable and not make Konoha more curious about our group. Hiku told herself as she went down to the arena. Momochi. Any connection to Zabuza Momochi? Kakashi asked himself. Hiku stood ready and waiting. She was currently dressed in a dark blue battle kimono and her hair held up in a bun with Tusenbon holding it in place. The look made her look slightly androgynous to those unfamiliar to her yet still more on the feminine side. Sai on the other hand wore a black ninja outfit with a gray open jacket on too and a ninjutsu at his left hip. He smiled at her with his eyes closed, and that bothered her more than anything else. Ready. Begin. Hayate announced. Right away Sai pulled out a scroll and a brush. He opened the scroll, revealing it was blank, and began quickly drawing several animals on it. It was actually somewhat impressive to see him draw such a complex drawing so quickly and accurately, without having to get more ink. Hiku suspected there was a trick to it, but had no time to worry about that. Ninja Art Super Beast Imitation. Sai calmly said before the drawings came to life right off the scroll as black and white animals. These particular animals happened to be lions and there were 5 of them. Whoa. Didn't see that one coming. Haku said, somewhat impressed but not intimidated. The lions advanced on her so she made a series of one-handed hand signs. Ice-style thousand needles jutsu. Countless ice sanbon formed and pierced the lions, killing them but making them look like they were being erased. Sai kept smiling at her, but now his eyes were open. Ice techniques That's unusual. Hope you don't accidentally freeze your balls off. That comment made the ice wielder jerk back. Did he really just say that? He thinks I'm a boy. Oh, I've got no problems with my powers so your concern is unneeded. An ice wielder. That's interesting. Sarutobi told himself. This new village is full of surprises. Sai started drawing again. Ninja art super beast imitation. This time 10 demonic horses sprang to life and ran towards Haku. Ice style ice spike jutsu. Haku declared after 4 two-handed hand signs. In front of her several spikes as thick as training logs and as long as a full-grown person formed on the floor before her like a barricade. The horses couldn't stop or dodge in time and ran right into the spikes, piercing themselves and disappearing. Ice-style thousand needles jutsu. Haku added. Sai tried to draw up something more effective, but the ice sanbon Haku created aimed right for his scroll and tore the available paper to ribbons. And as a precaution, some of them skewered the rolled-up section of the scroll too to prevent him from simply unrolling an available portion to continue drawing on. Sai lost his smile. Clever. You effectively eliminated one of the requirements of my methods. He tossed the scroll away, but then he reached inside his jacket and pulled out another. But any good shinobi has spare equipment for such an occasion. Well, that just shows you're more competent than some of the shinobi I've seen from this village. Haku commented. But can you draw now? She performed 6 hand signs in quick succession while he tried drawing some more creatures. Ice-style blizzard mist jutsu. From out of her mouth emerged a thick gray stream of mist. It looked exactly like the hidden mist jutsu and quickly covered the whole area. Sai finished his drawing as the mist hit him, instantly chilling him but doing nothing else. Ninja art super beast imitation. This time he created 2 eagles to fly over the spikes and attack Haku from above. The Oto Kunoichi had hid herself in the fog, but his eagles should have no problem finding her. The eagles circled around the arena, searching for their target. Sai was momentarily bothered that they couldn't find her. Without realizing it, he started to rub his arms in an effort to keep warm. Suddenly one of the eagles swooped down and attacked a spot about 4 feet to his right in front of him. After the eagle hit he saw Haku rise from the fog, indicating she had been crawling through it in an effort to sneak up on him, and she looked hurt. The second eagle attacked too, but when it hit, Haku burst into shards of ice that cut up the eagles and killed them. An ice clone. Sai asked himself. I didn't even see it in this fog. Where's the real one? He pulled out his sword and looked around for his opponent. It's a good thing birds of prey focus more on moving targets than still ones. Haku told herself, having remained still while her ice clone provided a distraction. Ice-style thousand needles jutsu. More ice sanbon formed around Sai and struck him while he attempted to block them with his sword and failed. Many pressure points were struck, making him seize up and collapse, unable to get up. She then rose from the fog. I believe this match is over. Hayate said nothing, waiting for any sign from Sai. The pale nin couldn't stand due to Haku's attack, so the coughing Junin relented. Winner, Haku Momochi. Haku dispelled the freezing mist and went back to where she had been before. Sai was taken away on a stretcher, already contemplating how he could assist Danzo in trying to acquire her talents for Root later on. Haku gave the pale artist a brief glance. Should I have corrected him when he called me a boy? After a quick thought, she shook her head. Nah, that would probably just cause more trouble for me later on. Kurenai smiled at her student. Good job Haku. Although from now on you'll have to be on guard for any curious Konoha ninja. They probably won't attack you, but they're bound to love the idea of trying to convince you to join them instead of our village. Haku waved it off. Like I would. Even so, Kurenai continued, sounding more serious now. They may not take no for an answer. Haku smiled. Okay sensei, I'll just spend all my time with Naruto-kun like Anko-san ordered Hinata to do. That way I'm covered. She struggled to not laugh at the genjutsu expert's expression, which was a mixture of, I can't believe you said that, and, keep your panties on. The monitor buzzed and 2 more names were revealed. Ino Yamanaka vs. Dosu Kinyuta. Too bad Forehead won't be here to see me wipe the floor with this guy. The platinum blonde from Konoha claimed confidently. You should focus more on doing the job well rather than being praised for it, Ino. Asuma told his kunoichi student. No worries, Asuma-sensei, it'll be a piece of cake. Ino said before she headed down to the arena. Actually, I'm a bit worried. My skills work best when I'm with my teammates, not solo. I gotta be careful here and not show any nervousness. She got and saw Dosu already waiting for her. Why does he dress so shabbily? Either he's weird or it serves some purpose. To be safe, let's assume the latter. Neither genin bothered to make any comments beforehand, so Hayate performed his duty. Read. Cough cough. Sorry. Ready. Begin. Dosu was ready to use his main weapon right away, but remembering Zaku's fight moments ago, chose to withhold that for the time being. For now, he reached into one of his supply pouches and tossed out a few dozen caltrops that landed scattered in front of Ino before she could move. Ino briefly looked daunted but just jumped over where the group was the thinnest and threw some shuriken at her foe in the process. Dosu used his gauntlet to block. Fortunately, it was strong enough to withstand the weak attack without damage. When Ino landed, she started up her trademark jutsu. Mind Possession. Melody Gauntlet Heavy Bass Blast. Dosu cut in, and unfortunately for the Konoha kunoichi, his attack was faster. A shockwave erupted from the contraption Dosu wore on his right arm, slamming into Ino with the force of a normal wind jutsu. She felt herself pushed back a bit but not hard enough to actually fall, impressive since her sense of balance was being thrown into disarray by the impact the sound had on her inner ear. And if that wasn't bad enough, heavy vibrations from the ground went up her legs and then her whole body, making her internal organs feel like they were rattling inside her. The collective effect made her feel disorientated and quite nauseous. Dosu himself felt a bit off too from the backlash of the weapon. Fortunately, that mane he wore allowed the excess sound waves generated by the gauntlet to harmlessly bleed out of his own body. Ino wasn't so lucky and finally fell forwards onto her hands and knees, looking like she was about to hurl. There was also a ringing in her ears that was going to drive her crazy in no time. She looked up and was glad to see he hadn't moved towards her to do more. I guess some of these new village shinobi prefer to fight standing in one place with ranged attacks. Ino told herself, remembering the battles involving several of the other Oto genin. Perfect targets for my techniques, if I could strike faster. Melody Gauntlet High-Pitch Screech. Dosu called out, his weapon now generating a siren-like sound. Ah! Ino screamed painfully as she covered her ears to block out the noise as best she could. Everyone else in the room had to do the same, particularly those watching from behind Ino. The only reason Dosu wasn't affected was because he moved a few mobile ear flaps to guard himself during the time when Ino was settling herself. To everyone's relief, the attack ended soon and Dosu moved forward to get right in Ino's face. Her head was throbbing and her hands were still tight around her ears, so she didn't even notice his movements. Everyone expected him to hit her, but instead he pushed her back with his left palm, making her fall backwards right onto the caltrops he set in place at the start of the match. Now the platinum blonde yelled for a different reason. Okay, she's suffered enough. Hayate commented. Winner, Dosu Kinyuta. Asuma sighed, his cigarette lowering on his lips. Sorry, Ino. But hopefully this will teach you to value your training more. While medics took Ino away and the main Oto genin rejoined his comrades, Guy looked at his own fellow comrades. So what does everyone think of this new village? They're full of surprises, that's for sure. Genma stated. We haven't yet found what we really want to know, but we did discover a few interesting facts. Kakashi pointed out. Like the Byakugan wielder and a hint to where their village is. Remember, Kakashi, that we don't want to act rash to someone we know little about and would probably benefit more from allying with them, Guy tried to say, but his friend rival cut him off with a hateful glare. Ally with them. Kakashi spat out like the idea was sin itself. These guys ruined my eye, stole my sensei's wife from us, crippled my student, and interfered on my team's first real mission. There is no force on heaven or earth to make me ally myself with them. Asuma shook his head. Guy was talking about the village Kakashi, not just you, and I don't think it's up to you who Konoha joins forces with. And personally I think we should give his idea merit. Maybe they'd fix your eye up if you got on their good side. Kakashi stubbornly looked away. Oh, real mature Kakashi. Genma sarcastically added. The monitor then declared the next match. Tenten Higurashi vs Gaara Sabaku.